back to trance. Welcome back to trance.
Space, the boundary of human achievement, the new frontier.
It's just a cough.
Yeah, right. And the Earth is flat.
In a few moments, you will have an experience which will seem completely real. It can be extremely harmful and result in severe trauma.
Peanut, we good?
You have 5 seconds to terminate this tape. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Peanut.
It's good to see you. I must go. I know
Hyundai.
Flat Earth expert Mark Sargent thinks the moon landing was a hoax.
Technically, the moon itself is a hoax.
Right, but betting with Sportsbet's new iPhone app?
I could do this standing on my head.
Thanks, Gravity. Sportsbet's new iPhone app. It's
Hold on.
foolproof.
I know how we're different. Do you believe the Earth is flat?
I know it's flat. I walk on it. Holy sh**.
Do you think the Earth is flat, Snoop? What do you
It's a flat world after all.
Smoke weed every day.
It's the secret David Weiss cam.
Broadcasting straight to you from a large spaceship currently at war with mainstream science. Meanwhile, the peanut gallery says, "Let the missiles fly." That's a Ukraine reference. Welcome to Strange World, where the truth is often stranger in fiction. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, the creator of Flat Earth Clues, which propose that all of us are living inside a Truman Show enclosed structure thousands of miles wide. Just Google Flat Earth Mark. If you can't find it, well, you're not very good at the internet. Currently, this show is on Tuesday nights at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. And yes, Carolina, if it is not November 19th, 2024, then you are listening to a rerun. Don't forget, you can find this show on BitChute and Brighteon, Rockfin and Rumble and Spotify. YouTube is not the end of Flat Earth. It is only the beginning. Quote of the day. Wow. Quote of the day goes exactly like this. Right? And I actually am going to enjoy reading this. Was Jake Paul's not the most punchable face in the history of punched faces? It was the face with all the character and lived experience of a canned ham. It was the consummate face of an influencer with all the smirky grifting in search of the luxe life that term suggests. There wasn't a hint of true toughness, much less truth in it. Just blandness cloaked in a poser pharaoh's beard and topped by some box-colored bleached curls. And God, did you ever want Mike Tyson to put his very real fist in it? Who said that? That was
Everybody thought it.
That was the first paragraph of an editorial by the Washington Post.
Nice.
Oh,
so truth in journalism, finally. Wow.
Oh, I agreed in it. I agreed it. So, oh God. And I didn't even watch it. And I agreed with it. Anyway, just to let everyone know before I get into all the introductions and everything, there is a winter storm happening off the coast of Washington right now. So if all of a sudden everything freezes and everything flips out, I'm hosting it here. So it's not that we got hit with a drone strike. It's that the wind knocked everything down. Right now, we're looking good. There's a little flickers here and there, but that's everything Seattle and south. I'm up north on Whidbey, so we're good. Anyway.
Could be like a Biden missile strike, mistaking Whidbey Island for, Ukraine or something, or Russia. I don't know. Who knows?
Nice. Threw in a missile reference. Yeah. Again, I'll believe it when I see it. You can let the missiles fly all you want. Russia's smarter than that, but whatever. And they're my bosses. My co-hosts are in the upper left, the perfect Patricia Steere. In
nukes are fake.
In the upper right, DJ, the delightful DJ Curious, and in the lower right, someone we haven't had on the show in a while, Jeranism. What's happening, man?
Been a while. I love DJ Curious's glasses, but I don't know what it says. Does it say hi, Jaren?
It says hi, Jaren. What's
up?
Nice. Okay, let's
get like for coming on the show. It's one of those packaged gifts where I get those in the green room or something.
Right? He won't even let me steal his thunder because I'm big on the animated glasses. I would love a pair like that, but I don't want to steal from DJ's whole vibe. The face and the hair and all that stuff.
Hey, if I'm going to talk Flat Earth, gotta have fun, right?
That is true.
Who cares?
If we're not laughing, we're crying. Let me get the obligatory stuff out of the way. All three of you suck, and it must be hard for all of you to find Flat Earth friends, but there is an easy way to find cool people like yourself and solid info about our stationary horizontal level plane. The solution, of course, is simple. It's the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. Watch the featured video every day for 2 weeks and see what happens. It'll be the best $2.99 you've ever spent. Oh, so sleepy. And because it's 10 p.m. on the East Coast, it's time to say goodnight to one of our listeners, Paige. She's just put on her Moby Dick pajamas, got a cup of cocoa with exactly 6 tiny marshmallows, and will probably listen to the playback in the morning. Good night, Paige.
Good night, Paige.
Shout outs to Flat Earther Stephen Carpenter, the Deftones. Support the Flat Earth cause and get the coolest hoodies ever. Go to the strong.family, won't you, and pick up some merch. Deftones are touring this year, of course. Touring in 2025, so catch them if you can. Maybe you find Stephen. He's a cool guy. Also, shout out to ZULUONE, longtime listener of the show, for doing a simulcast stream on his channel. I'm pretty sure he's doing one tonight, which is awesome. Let's see. Meetups. We got 4. Go figure. I thought they would have shut down for the holidays. Not Flat Earthers. You can't stop them. West UK. That's going to be November 26th. And that's going to be with virtual Jeran and virtual Witsit simultaneously. That ought to be fun. So that promo is on my channel. Check that out if you get a chance. November 30th, Minnesota. That promo is on my channel. December 6th, Tennessee. These are all regular groups, by the way. Minnesota does one every month. Tennessee does one every month. And the Southern New York meetup is going to be in Collegeville, Pennsylvania, right across the border, December 21st. Okay? How's that for fun?
Right.
Yeah. And let's get the my Fast Earth clue out of the way now before we introduce Jeran, because who knows if the power goes out or we're going to lose the whole thing anyway. Hopefully not, though. You ready? 60 seconds. It'll change your life. This one's called Who, and it lists off the all the fun conspiracy groups. Yep. So my Flat Earth friends message me, say, Mark, who is responsible for hiding Flat Earth and other conspiracies? In 60 seconds, are you crazy? In no particular order, you have the Bilderbergs, the Rothschilds, the Trilateral Commission, the Council of Foreign Relations, both sides of the Masons, that being the Knights Templar and Prairie of Sion. They run the History Channel, created the National Treasure movies, and are super proud of George Washington. Moving on, the Illuminati, Skull and Bones. Oh, look, there's the Bush family. Why do you think this happened? The Hermetic Order, the Golden Dawn, the Rosicrucians, the Black Hand, Hashishans, Carbonari, all are just different parts of the one world order. It's not new anymore. But if I had to pick the top of the pyramid, I would go with the oldest group still standing, and by that I mean the remains of the Roman Empire. Yeah, those guys. Known today as the Vatican. They even have their own country, and no one messes with them. Shout out Da Vinci's demons. How does a group like the Rothschilds, who rose to power in 1815, even compare to the OGs who invented things like the modern calendar? If anyone figured out the flat earth first, it would be them. Do your own research. Figure out who runs this place, and remember the first rule of power. Whatever. I'm done. There you go. 60 seconds to change your life. And of course, people emailed me almost immediately afterwards, said, you forgot, fill in these groups. It's like, dude, I had 60 seconds. How many? In fact, you probably noticed, DJ, I ran out of breath after I got to the Vatican. I was actually, I was sucking air at that point. It's like, oh God. So
no, it's so good though. But you've got the Hashishans. I don't even know what that is.
They are the precursors to what we now know as assassins.
Ooh,
yes, Hashishans was an old term, but they were a much more formalized group. Now, of course, it's just a generic term. Assassin. Everybody's got assassins, but they were
it's very like Zoolander. Were they male models?
Yes, they were male models. They were absolutely
got it, because they do what they're told, right?
Yep. Okay, so Jeran, everybody, let's do a quick introduction. Jeranism from the channel. Jeran Campanella from the channel Jeranism. How are you this evening, sir?
He needs no introduction.
No, he doesn't.
Really.
No, but we do blame Mark Sargent for me being here.
Thank you. And
that's true.
And why is that?
And he is always because. Go ahead, Jeran.
I didn't want to do videos ever. I didn't even know how to do them, and I told my wife I didn't want to be on the screen. And then we saw the clues, and then I said, hey, I can do that. That guy just used his voice and put some pictures up there. And then I also figured that if anybody made fun of me, I would just blame him and say he told me to do it, and he got me started.
But
it all there.
There's a secondary story which I share, because I've heard you say this on an interview before years ago. Because Jeran and I have been both doing this pushing 10 years now.
Wow.
Hard to believe a decade has gone by. But the one I liked was when you were watching the clues, and I inspired you in that, because I knew nothing about video editing. I sucked. And you went down, you'll have to help me out here. And it's like, well, if this guy can do them, I could absolutely do them and get subs. So you went down, you didn't even buy it new. You went down to the secondhand store and bought a copy of what?
$3 for Pinnacle Pro.
Wow.
It's like probably 10 years old. It barely could do anything. But I got the job.
$3. You bought some secondhand video editing software, and then
so
came home.
Back because you didn't even do you didn't know the difference between widescreen and square. So I was doing like square images, and they would have the black bars on the side. I just had no idea. So it's kind of fun.
Oh, I had no idea. I was doing, my early videos were done, I think all the clues were done in like 4:3. I didn't even use widescreen because I didn't know there was a setting for widescreen.
That was before there was actually YouTube live streaming. Which
Yeah.
is crazy to think about. There was no live streaming when we started.
Yeah.
Nuts.
And I knew nothing about anything, and when I started making my stuff, and then all of a sudden, you were one of the early content makers, and you caught me so fast. And then again, you have more subs. You've had more subs than me for probably 7 years now at least, and you suck. So
yeah.
Get that out of the way.
And I'm stuck at one. I've had the same amount for 4 years. As I'm sure you have.
Hey, I want to make a quick announcement. I just broke a couple days ago. I just broke 106,000. I was sitting at 105,000 for 2 years. 2 freaking years. They had throttled me down so far. And yeah, Jaron knows what we're talking about. He was there when they put the governors on us and took us down to, again, like, for example, when you hit 100,000, did you apply to get your checkbox to get verified?
I applied for that little award you're supposed to get, but they don't give it to conspiracy theorists.
No.
They laugh at it.
No, they don't.
Wow.
No, they don't.
I bet Jake Paul has it, or Logan, one of those two.
Sure, they have
Sure,
it.
they've got it.
Oh, yeah, they've gotten in the millions.
If you eat tricks out of a bathtub, you get one.
What happened was when you apply, right? You get a little checkbox, you get verified next to your name, and they should send you out a plaque. However, I found out in the fine print that if you ever got a guideline, not a copyright strike, but you ever got a guideline strike, you were ineligible. And I imagine you've gotten a few of those.
Yeah. Had my fair share. I've had to take down my channel a couple times just in full because Bart Cybrell wanted to attack me. But what are you gonna do? So
no, I didn't know about that one. Tell us.
It's probably 3 years ago or something that he copyright striked 2 of my videos, takedown strikes, and then copyrighted 14 other ones. Anything that included him or his movie. And he said, you're not allowed to use that to promote Flat Earth. And I said, what are you talking about? I said, that's what fair use is for. Fair use is so that somebody can take somebody's work and then apply it to something different and say, yes, I'm talking about Flat Earth. He seems to think that you can only use his work if you're going to say the exact same thing as him, which is that's what copyright is for, is to protect against.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's one of those things where so I had a choice. Basically, I could keep the 2 strikes and all my videos up, but you know how that goes. You could wake up one morning and the 3rd one's done and your channel's gone.
Yeah.
Or I could pull every video from my channel and wait till the time ran out and then start loading everything back up again. So that's what I did. So I saved the channel. I don't know if that was the right move or not, but we'll never know.
Yes, of course. He saved the channel.
Saved the channel. For those of you who don't know who Bart Cybrell is, he was the guy that made. I enjoyed the documentary back in the day called "A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon."
Right.
And he is like the one. He was one of the leading advocates of that the Americans did not go to the moon. The Apollo program was absolutely fake. However, he's a big believer of, because of the video he liked putting out there, that they went in low Earth orbit and they just faked everything from low Earth orbit, and he didn't explain why they didn't go to the moon other than that. And when we came along, I knew this because I heard him say it on different things. He hated us. Oh my God, he hated us almost as much as the guy. Jaron probably remembers the name of this guy. Who's the guy that did The Principal?
Yeah, Robert Sungenis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He hated us too. But Bart Cybrell really hated, because again, we stole, we took it up a notch, which is like, oh no, man, there's no low Earth orbit. There's nothing. So and we were stealing the thunder from him. We were stealing the thunder from The Principal. And to this day, he does not, he still sticks to his guns on the moon landing, but no, he doesn't.
He thinks that we have a remote control car on Mars. So that shows you where his mentality.
Well, he could be close because he was on the Flat Earth Files podcast. Check out that episode.
All right. He could be close.
He might. Go ahead.
Or maybe he just doesn't want to discredit his income.
He's mad at me because I think I keep telling people that he probably got that material on purpose. Because if you're NASA, you're going to assume there's going to be some people who are going to believe you didn't go to the moon. Yep. Right? You can't assume everyone's going to do it. So they have to say, all right, we have to play to that audience as well. So if you give Bart Cybrell the tape that proves orbit but disproves moon landing, then you're reconfirming the orbits, you're reconfirming the sphere Earth, and then people who believe in the moon landing was fake fall into that camp. So that's where I think his job is to keep people there. So I've said that a couple times, and I think that's why he wasn't very fond of that. So
it makes sense.
Yeah.
But that is super interesting, though, right? Because what if they were that calculated, and then he doesn't want to feel played or duped any more than we all felt, but it is what it is.
Yeah. No,
One scary thing you could have happen, right? Somebody could always feed you information. And as a researcher, you're going to feel like you found something big, and you might run with it. So that's a great technique for controllers, people that lie to us.
It is a wonderful technique. In fact, it's not a new technique either. That's a time-honored tradition, which was you leak a rumor to someone that you know will run with it and who is somewhat credible. And even manufacture it to where, there might be some aspects of truth with it, but whatever it is, they'll take total credit for it and run it. It's like, and he did. It was like, oh, it was sent to me. I'm the only one. I've got the exclusive on this. Again, it's like giving an exclusive to a reporter, and they're just so thrilled about getting the exclusive that why not? Why wouldn't he? And he totally ran with it. Go ahead.
You would just think that something like that would be a little bit more controlled. If it is a piece of footage that they didn't want out, what are the chances it just ends up in his app? It just seems a little bit far-fetched.
Right. And it was. I mean, yeah, when you're looking at it, it's like, holy smokes. At the very least, even if you took us completely out of the picture, you'd say, holy smokes, NASA's faking something. I mean, they're absolutely faking something. I mean, that part was abundantly clear. But the overall message was much more clever, which was, oh, okay, they're faking stuff, but it's from low Earth orbit. There's still space. There's totally space. It's like, yeah, okay, all right. Till
man, oh man,
till we come along.
Yeah, that's got to be exhausting for whoever's disseminating the lies, trying to catch up and outsmart and outwit, outlast, because that's basically what the globe is trying to do, right? It's very Survivor, the outwit, outsmart, outlast tactic.
Yeah.
Of the flat Earth wave that's coming. But Jaron, so happy to have you here. You've been a huge part of my kind of awakening.
Awesome.
I've been following your stuff for a long time because obviously when you're new to flat Earth, you're just kind of diving into the deep end without any knowledge of who knows what, who does what, and you're trying to just soaking up so much content. So thanks for all of your hard work. You must be pretty mind blown a decade later. Tell us, you got into flat Earth, but how has this changed your life?
Well, it's changed everything. I'm really happy to be able to work from home. Basically in 2012 or so, I quit my job and we had a bookstore, and that wasn't going well because you forget, like, how do you get people to the online bookstore? We spent all the time setting it up. We had all the books inventoried. Everything was great. And then it's like we went live and it's like, oh, wait, people are not buying the books. What are you going to do? So we had to kind of, move on to something else. And it just so happened that we found Flat Earth we became Flat Earthers around Thanksgiving of 2014, which is why I know when people say, oh, is this a psyop, this and that? Well, it doesn't really fit because nobody psyoped me necessarily. We kind of came to this on our own. We remember being at Thanksgiving dinner and laughing that we were the flat earthers at the table. And we kept looking on YouTube because she kept telling me, my wife kept saying, make videos. And we kept looking on YouTube and there was just nothing. And it wasn't until February of the next year, 2015, that I just happened to search one day, and the first 3 or 4, whatever it was that he released, 3 clues came up.
Yeah.
And we just were immediately enthralled. So
that's awesome.
The rest of history. So, as far as my life changing, it's been great. met a lot of good people. I've been to places I would have never thought I'd been, like Amsterdam, Edmonton. We went, I was there to speak at Dallas and Denver. So it's just been a fun ride and meeting everybody. There's been some great people and some not so great, but what are you going to do?
When you got into this, sorry, let me interject for a second, DJ.
Yeah.
Did you, I know you saw my stuff, but I have to ask because other people have asked me back in the day, were you aware of Eric Dubé's stuff at all?
Yeah, in fact, it was the map of his that I saw was the AE map first time. My wife had asked me whether I thought that the Earth could be flat, and I said, no, that's stupid. Planes go around it. I'd gone to the west and gone to the Philippines, and she'd gone to the east and been to Germany. So I was just like, it just doesn't make sense. How would planes fly around a flat Earth? So I kind of dismissed it. But I was at the time looking into the moon landings, and I happened to be on Eric's site when I saw the AE map for the first time. And that's when it hit me that my cog disk basically blocked the idea or even the thought that planes could go around a flat Earth. And that was the first time I saw that. And then I kind of said, okay, let me debunk this before I have to admit to my wife that she's not stupid. So I tried to debunk it, and first thing I saw, okay, circumnavigation. There's no north-south circumnavigation on this map. So I went looking for that and couldn't find anything but that one guy who's a cousin of the Queen and a 3rd baronet and the world's greatest explorer. But then you find articles about him faking expedition or faking accidents on expeditions. So I was able to dismiss that one person. And then from there, you just couldn't find anything that would be called globe evidence, globe proof, and everything was adding up to a flat stationary plane. So we ran with it.
Nice.
That's so crazy. So the clues helped, but you were already kind of looking into the moon landing possibly being fake, and that's what led you to flat Earth?
Yeah, I would say that I kind of thought, my wife and I started all of our beliefs over. So what we said is we kind of were going to erase everything and start from the ground up. That's when she mentioned flat Earth, and I kind of dismissed it. And I said, we're not, some things are fundamentally true. We don't need to go back that far. But then when I saw that, I started looking into that. And really, yeah, that was kind of what led us to flat Earth. But it was, the clues cued us into things that I had never even thought of. I'm trying to remember, one of the clues was about the movies not being made about it.
Right.
Right. You think there would be all these movies made about the moon landing, something, but there was none. Yep. So those kind of clues were just things that we hadn't thought of at all. And we were wet behind the ears for sure. I remember I was one of those guys that thought that the shadow on the moon was from the Earth. The moon phases.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just that's what I believed, So you just kind of quickly realize that you weren't taught these things in school for some reason. And I was taught that the flat Earth was the dumbest thing in the world. And when you start looking into it, you realize, wait a second, this has merit. So immediately you have to think to yourself, well, why would something that has some merit or at least makes some sense have to be demonized and called the dumbest belief ever unless there's an agenda behind it? Yeah. So it was just kind of one thing added to another. The big thing for me was in 2014, I believe at the end of 2014, December, there's a guy named ZQ Pilot. You can still find him if you look him up on Facebook. Mm-hmm. He was going to attempt the circumnavigation record in a single person in a plane, north-south circumnavigation. And I said, okay, well, here's the proof. We'll be able to watch this guy, and it will be easy for me to see. And you saw his proposed route. He was supposed to go down to Brazil from North Carolina, and then Brazil across the South Pole all the way to New Zealand, and then up around Alaska and up around the North Pole. And he took off, and he had these things called spider tracks on his plane. You could go to this website, Spider Tracks, and you'd be able to track his flight. And so I tracked it, and when he got to Brazil, he took off to go to the South Pole, and he got to the South Pole and turned around and went back to Brazil. And everyone's like, well, that's weird. Why did he? And they interviewed him, and he said, oh, it's because the weather was treacherous, and he didn't want to keep going that way. He was afraid he wouldn't have gas to get to New Zealand, so he came back. And then he left and went to the Easter Island and like Phuket and all those places, the Tonga, went to New Zealand, then went up to the North Pole. And I was like, well, they're not going to give him the record. Well, sure enough, they did. And I think that was the big one for me where I said, okay, there's something here. You don't give people circumnavigation records who didn't circumnavigate.
Right.
You just don't. So if we're willing to give away records to people that didn't actually get the record, and that record is kind of a proof or whatever, good evidence of a curved Earth, well, then, you have to start questioning everything. And the more you look into some of this stuff, then you just find all the holes in history, all the holes in the stories that were told about how these guys figured this out, and just figure out the lies of Copernicus. And, we're all told, oh, Copernicus, he had to submit his book on his deathbed. And then you actually start looking into it, and you see that for 10 years before that, he was presenting in front of popes and the heliocentric model. So it's just kind of weird that they have this story they have to tell us, like this folklore, right? Same thing with like Columbus discovers America, and then he sailed, but then you find out, no, it's just Washington Irving is the one who wrote a book, and what doesn't even make sense? Like, why did it end up in school? Why are we being taught things in school? And now you're telling us that it's, oh, some guy wrote a book and he was just so off that it stuck. Well, no, you taught us. You put it in school books. So obviously it's not just this guy writing a book. So it's just a mess. Everything you see is a mess. You find out, what's his name? Aristophanes supposedly measured the Earth in 275 BC. Yeah. But the first globe that we have, 1492. So you have to believe then we knew it was a sphere for 1,750 years, but nobody ever thought, let's put this map on a sphere. So just it added up one after another, after another, after another, till you couldn't see through the fog anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking about the Mercator map, for example, that everybody knows, like everybody, even in the map communities knows, at the very least, even if you don't believe in flat Earth, that the Mercator map is completely off. I mean, it is incredibly off. It's there for general purposes only, not for navigation. In fact, crap, can't remember the name of the big one that's changed, the one that's skewed. But the point is that they're never going to change the Mercator map, where you pull down in the classroom. They're never going to change it because it's like, well, everyone's used to it, and the teachers, everyone's taught it, so it's good enough. And it's like, yeah, not even close. But yeah, like you were saying, it's like, no, that's gospel, and kids just stare at it.
Right, I remember seeing that map too, and that the equator was like 2/3 of the way down, which made no sense. It's like, what is this about? Right. Why is the equator? But then you find out that it's because they wanted the white countries to be bigger. And I remember just all these things. This is early on, just frustrating me to the point where I'm like, wait, so you're saying that the map isn't real? And then you see that Westworld scene, right, where they ask him about the map and they show him the Gales Peters map, I think, which is
Gall Peters. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just start to learn all this stuff, and you just realize that we were basically lied to. And then the more I looked into everything from Stonehenge to Thanksgiving to what Columbus actually never stepped foot in America, and how he basically just killed the natives and pretended he was God and he could predict eclipses so that they would give him gold. You just realize that this world is basically built on lies, and some people believe them and go along with it, and some people refuse. Yeah. I'm one of those who refuses.
Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely.
And when you say some people, most of the people, before we get a hold of them anyway, the general public is extremely dumb. They'll buy anything, which is I don't want to awkwardly segue backwards for a second, but the fact that what ticked me off about the weekend more than anything wasn't the Tyson Paul thing. It was the fact that I had at least a dozen people that weren't involved in Flat Earth asking me if I was going to watch the fight. And it's like, because and my brother-in-law swears that it was a legitimate boxing match, that it wasn't choreographed. And I'm going, look, Tyson was paid $20 million for this. He's going to do whatever they say. If that means he's going to stop throwing decent punches in the second round, that's what he's going to do. The general public believes it now, to where now we've entered this phase, what I call celebrity boxing, which shouldn't even exist. I talked with Patricia about this a while back. It kind of reminds me of Jaren's. I don't know if you're old enough to remember the Battle of the Network Stars, which was a thing that we had back in the day. Peanut remembers that, Battle of the Network Stars, where you had the three networks, ABC, NBC, and ABC, where all the public cared about. They want to be entertained, right? That's all they care about. Professional sports, if professional sports aren't entertaining enough, by God, get some celebrities out there to do what they're doing. And that's what we're going to watch. And Netflix is like, yeah, that's what we'll give them. And they did. I mean, to where the Netflix servers were crashing because there were so many people hitting it. So, yeah.
Well, you loved professional wrestling, Jaren. And at one point, maybe you transitioned from thinking it was real to fake. I'm not sure if you ever did think it was real, but I remember thinking it was real when I was a little girl. And when it comes to the boxing that's going on now, it seems after what's going on with Jake Paul, maybe all boxing's always been fake.
Well, yes. Boxing is one of the easiest things to rig ever. The old saying is, you've heard me say it here, which is, once there's enough money in a particular event, it's gonna, if it can be rigged, it will be. And
it's just like the flat Earth. I mean, it's exactly like what we're talking about with NASA and all these moon missions and such. Same thing. If they can fake something, money is involved. Yeah. They will.
And I didn't even blame NASA that much. Jaren, you could probably chime in on this. I mean, I know you've been picking on NASA for years and years, which is, you think back to the 60s when all of a sudden the United States had this wonderful opportunity. We hardly got touched during World War II. And everyone looked to us. We were the hero, shining hero on the hill. And all of a sudden, somebody came with this great idea. It's like, yeah, you know what? Let's say we went to the moon. Are we going to the moon? No, it doesn't matter. Let's say we go to the moon. Who's going to question us? We're freaking America. We can do anything. And, it's like, it's all just freaking theater anyway, most of the time. Let's just see if we can pull this thing off. And it worked for a while, but it did not age well. As you guys know, the footage from Apollo, and again, the argument, which I've thrown out there time and time again, which is the last Apollo mission was in 1972. No one else has even tried. No one with launch capabilities even attempted to go to the moon since 1972. And yet the adoring public looks with stars in their eyes, no play on words there, and just says, oh yeah, one day we'll go back. It's like, really? Because you've been kicking that can down the road since the 70s. And
forever.
Yeah. It's
most average people that I come across, not involved with the conspiracy world, think we went to the moon still. Seriously. Yeah. So, it's a hard nut to crack.
And there was a thing I want to throw Jaren under the bus here for a second, which was when I was living in Canada for a year, there was somebody had sent me a snapshot of the Tesla Roadster in space, back in the day. And the first thing I thought, I emailed back, it's like, did Jaren make this? Did Jaren make this little roaster in space thing? And they go, no, dude, that's a live link. I'm going, what the hell are you talking about? Live link? That's good. There's no live link. What are you talking about? There's a freaking roadster in space. It's like, yeah, look. And again, the general public, to Patricia, I will give credit where credit is due. Patricia was the only one that said this. She's going, if that thing was lived up to its hype, why wasn't there a banner in every Tesla dealership showing that Roadster in space? And I go, yeah, you're right. They should be. And they minimized it. They did it, but I don't think they wanted to draw that much attention to it in case they really, really screwed up. And they just kind of, it's like, yeah, it's a thing. Okay, go away now. We're not going to look at it anymore. No marketing on that thing at all, except for that day. But what do you think when you...
The most famous part of that is you can tell it's real because it looks so fake. I mean, everybody's heard that. That just went viral.
Well, it's probably one of the dumbest things you could ever say.
It is
actually
so
and he's
dumb,
been
right?
saying versions of that lately too.
Yeah.
About other things.
My response, you guys probably heard it before, which is no, it looks so fake because it's freaking fake. It's not. Don't. But the reverse psychology, I don't even give Elon the credit for coming up with that saying on his own, because it is kind of genius when you think about it. Which was he's throwing it because it's subconsciously in the masses' heads. It's like, oh yeah, it looks so fake, but it's real, totally real, man. It just looks bad. It's like.
The thing that people forget about that, and I have to keep trying to do videos about it and talk about it, is that they changed their live stream. This is proven. This is not a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
You can go to my channel and see it for a fact that they did something that is not able to be done.
Nope.
It's not physically able to be done. No YouTube channel can actually change a live stream. Once it's done, you're done. Now you can go in and you can cut off the end, or you can blur somebody's face or something like that. But you cannot input another video on top of it or edit it and move things from the beginning to the end. And that's what they did. And it still, this day, doesn't show on their channel that it was edited. You can't edit your comment. If you make a comment, hit submit, and then you go and change one word in it, it says edited.
Right.
Because you're adjusting something that's already been written and is part of the public record. Well, with the SpaceX launch, it still says streamed live on the date.
Yep.
As if nothing ever happened, and it's a completely different. Well, it's not completely different. It has a scene inputted over another scene, and then they took the Bowie song and moved it from the end of the stream to the middle, like to make it some big, impactful, thematic moment. And that should really cause concern to everybody.
Yeah.
And it's one thing I get mad at Globers at all the time. Like, how do you guys just sit there and take that? You don't realize what that does. It really jeopardizes every live stream that YouTube will ever do. I can never bank on something being live and saying, oh, this was live. Because
it's 1984. It's putting something down the memory hole, and then everyone has to agree that that's the way it always was.
I remember when you put that up, when you were railing against that, Jaron, and you were really upset about it because you guys.
Because I spent a lot of time sitting there watching NASA footage.
Yeah.
Like trying to find mistakes in their spacewalks and things, and then to find out, oh wait, you can change live streams.
And
Why would I watch this?
To give it some context, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Jaron. If I'm not mistaken, it was the re-entry part. And what was happening was there were two cameras that were showing the exact same image, but slightly askew. They had doubled up on their cameras for whatever reason. You called them out on it. It's like, oh, they screwed that up. And then after it landed, they went back and repaired it and changed it to where the camera angles were the right cameras. And to just so you guys know what we're talking about there, you can't go back and do that. You can't go in and insert. You cannot edit your video, change it from live to a more polished version, and it still remain live. And
you could take it down and you could put it back up as an uploaded video, which is what all of us have to do. But you cannot just adjust it and it just stay there and be live because, of course, it's not live. It's been changed.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So you're saying we can't, but they can. Yeah. Apparently, that's what you guys are saying. Okay.
They use a different set of rules, and we have caught them on it a number of times, and then they'll just change the rules sometimes. Also, you remember back in the day when the Senate hearing came out, which I posted, which was like we were doing, gangbusters, absolutely crushing it. And then all of a sudden there's this weird little Senate hearing where, the head of Google is out there and she's like, yeah, so we're gonna, and I remember it's like, we're gonna ban certain things like election, critiques and snake oil and false flags. And then she threw this at the end. She goes, and we're gonna recommend flat Earth, a lot less. I'm going, what? And then I heard, and which meant the monetization just plummeted. Absolutely, Rob Skiba contacted me. He goes, dude, because I'm making like 70% less than what I was making a month ago. What happened? I go, you don't want to know. It happened across the board. It was awful.
Yeah, it's happened to all of us. It's the great adpocalypse too is right around that same time. So
Yep.
we all
the adpocalypse. Yep.
when they shadow banned us. I mean, that's the worst thing.
Oh.
Because you'll never show up in somebody's up next. You'll never show up in somebody's feed. It seems like they only send out a small portion of your notifications. So yeah,
it's impossible to even find a video that you know exists. You've seen it before.
Right.
You put the name in, and it's just like doesn't come up.
Nope. And they do even blanket coverage now. I'm sure you've seen it, Jaron, where even the trolls, even the because of what we did. Look, we're the creators, and the reaction channels out there. Those are the troll channels. Those they came way after us. I mean, we were actually lucky for the first couple of years. We didn't have a lot of troll channels out there, and then it's like. Once the word got out, it's like, dude, all you have to do is go against Flat Earth. You will freaking skyrocket up the charts. And so all the big channels were doing it. But like, if you look at things from McKeegan and Professor Dipshit and Simon Dan and all those guys, they will that wiki banner. And by the way, again, if you guys are listening for the first time and you don't know what we're talking about, which was in that Senate hearing, we were the first ones that, because of Flat Earth, the wiki banner, the official line underneath the video. Yeah, you're welcome. We did that. But now they're doing it to the troll channels. So at first they were like watching the troll channels to see if they were trolling us enough, and if they were trolling us well enough, it's like, yeah, we're not even going to put the wiki banner on. Now they just throw them. Wiki banner on everybody. Everybody gets freaking wiki banners. All you have to do is talk about Flat Earth, and you'll get it, for the most part.
Well, let's discuss the elephant in the room before we run out of all of our time here, which is the not so final observation, which Jaron's a huge part of, along with Witsit on the flat side. And anybody who's been listening to your channel has heard you discuss it, and you've done multiple videos on it. Anybody who's watched the Final Experiment channel has seen what is being said over there. And if you've seen any of the anti-Flat Earth channels, what they have said. So we kind of all don't need to go through what all of that is. But what has been said is, this is no news to anybody here, that, quote, Jaron is already a Glober. And everybody better get used to that idea. That's one thing. And the other thing is, what's being said, that if the 24-hour midnight sun is seen in Antarctica going around your heads a couple of times over a couple of days, then that disputes Flat Earth entirely. So these are two things I wanted to talk to you about. Now, I know that you have said, Jaron, that it doesn't mean you're a Glober if that is seen. That's not, you're not going to be doing a Fight the Flat Earth channel. No. You're not going to be doing that. But I have noticed you've been putting up a lot of old videos that really aren't really flat type videos, but they're some of the other work that you've done on your channel that are Flat Earth adjacent, other related issues. If this is a weird thing to even ask, but no one I don't think has ever asked you this. I don't even know if you've thought about it. If indeed that does happen, there's a lot of things that will change in your life. Are you going to be focusing your channel more on NASA fakery if that happens?
I haven't even gotten that far yet because I don't think
I didn't think you had, but it's one of those questions that nobody else has brought up, so I figured I'd bring that one up.
Can I throw one more thing there before he gets to the difficult questions, which is break down just for us, because I've been getting conflicting reports even last week. Last week, I thought the Professor Dave was going and Simon Dan was going. They are who exactly is going? And when are you guys?
Just Witsit and I and a girl Lisbeth from Clubhouse. That would be the only Flat Earthers that I know, and then MC Toon, and Dave McKeegan, and Duffy, and a guy named Critical Think, and that might be it.
It's because initially Duffy.
And Candace Owens, producer.
And Candace Owens, producer. Thank you.
She's confirmed going?
Her producer is, yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, she wants to send him. So that's who I believe is going. I know it's a little confusing. He has some stupid scorecard on his channel or on his website, and people are taking the numbers to mean that's who's going, and so it's been confusing. I hear people all the time tell me that people are going.
He has been hyping this up to no end. When are you leaving?
My plane, the 10th.
10th of December, and you're coming back on the
21st, I think.
Oh wow! So 11 days.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's longer than we thought. I mean, that's part of the reason Witsit and I were like, okay, because originally it was 12/14 through 12/18, so you're thinking in your head, all right, we're going to go 13 to 19 probably. But no, they make you stay in the hotel 2 days before and 2 days after, just in case there's any weather-related concerns.
Gotcha.
That they'll either send you early, or they'll send you late, or they'll have you come back late. So they make you do that.
Got it.
And which part of Antarctica are you guys going?
It's 80 degrees south. It's called Union Glacier Camp. I guess it's been around for quite a while, like 35 years. And it's just a camp that they run out. It's kind of the central hub, I guess, where a lot of things will fly into there because they've got a big blue ice runway. So planes can fly in there, dump things off, and then they'll either be transported to the South Pole or something like that. So it's been around for years. They probably have one or two of these events each year, supposedly. Again, I called them asking for where's the 24. Well, I actually called and they said I needed to film, and I was talking to them, and then they said, well, what are you filming? And I said, well, I'm filming the 24-hour sun because you guys can't do it, obviously. You've been here 35 years and never done it, so I guess I'll have to go down and do it. So then they were.
And what'd they say?
Okay. I mean, they kind of, I don't know. Seems like those people don't even know anything about the sun. So, and which would be what I would expect if it was any kind of deception. What you would do is you would hire people that are just smart enough to do the job, but dumb enough to, if you ask them like, and what do you think about the sun being out? Oh, I love the sun. If they don't have a clue about what they're actually seeing, then that's the people you hire down there.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Just give me 1 second to get this out really quick. So first of all, super proud of you for being brave enough to go on something like this. And I have a bunch of questions. So besides that, you've been a trailblazer. It's great that you came across Mark's clues. I think it was very cool that you've kind of put yourself out there on the internet so long ago when there was little content and when it looked a lot more crazy to all of our globe friends, because, I'm kind of walking in your guys' shadow at this point, putting myself on there. But this Antarctica thing is getting a lot of attention, even from my globe friends who have kind of come across it. So do you think that we're going to see the 24-hour sun, or where are you at on all of that?
No, I mean, if I had to bet, I don't think the trip will happen. I mean, that's if you were to make a bet. I mean, that's what I would think. Or if it does happen, then I think it'll be clouded over for the entire time we're there. And if that's not there, then I would, then I guess the last option would be that it is there. What I don't think can happen, I don't think they can fake the sun. I just have too much of a belief in seeing it my whole life and zooming in on it with infrared cameras and solar filters. I think that's impossible to fake. It'd have to be something ginormous. And then how are you powering it? How is it being up in the sky? How can you do all that stuff? And then you have to have it merge somehow with the real sun that we would see in the north normally. So that seems impossible, even though I hear people tell me every day that they're going to fake it. I'm like, well, show it to us. So that's not possible. So if it's not possible that they fake it, then the only options are that they stop the trip from happening or that it does take place. So that's pretty much the last resort would be that it's been there the whole time, which is just insane to think about because they've got no 24-hour camera footage from the South Pole. Undersea cables in the South don't exist. There's no cruises in the South. Everything that leads you to believe in the AE map is present, but the things that would lead you to believe that the Earth is a globe are not present. So I tend to think that we are right. And I know it's funny because as everyone has thought that I've fallen off to the globe, what I've actually done is I've actually been the one who I think I believe in the flat Earth the most. So that's the difference. Is I'm like, no, the map that we have is the right map. That is where we live. So everyone else who bailed and it's like, oh, it's not. I don't believe in the AE map. It's like, well, then you're an idiot because there is no other map that works. So figure it out. I mean, and I've kind of been challenging people on purpose. Like I've been trying to get them to move and know that if the sun does circle down there, we need a new map, and it's not the AE map. But if the AE map is what I think is true. And I think that it fits everything, and that's why we use it. But people think there's going to be some other map. I don't think that'll ever be the case.
And some people feel like they have a map already. There's a couple of people who've come up with other maps. I don't really know about them that much, but, The
one that has like two poles and then
right.
Don't work because one of them has the sun rising in the west for Australia and Russia. So we should just dismiss those, but people keep putting them on their channel and then everybody follows and says it's great. But I mean, that's kind of one of the problems is that we went from being very kind of specific at the beginning to just kind of allowing anything. And then now it's just kind of a free for all and make whatever map you want. People are taking globe maps like time and date or like a sun calc and then putting it on an AE map and saying, oh, it works. Yeah, but you're grabbing the observations from that map, or that site, which comes from the globe. So
right, SunCalc is a government thing anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're just using that on the AE map, thinking that that's an explanation for the way the world works, which is not.
Not that all government things are lies, but it is something to keep an eye on for sure.
Right.
Do you think that Will Duffy or someone close to him has already been there and has already made an observation that has given him the supreme confidence that he seems to possess when he makes his videos? Or do you think he's just assuming that all the Globe people and all of the education that he has makes his viewpoint correct?
Yeah, if you're a Glober, you are convinced already in everything, right? And the 24-hour sun is something that cannot not be there if you're a Glober. So if you're a Glober, you are completely confident because you've been confident this whole time. Why? Because you have all the entire scientific backing behind you. You've got professors, you've got textbooks. And so it's not very impressive. You can have the tiniest balls there ever was, and you can say that the Earth is a ball, and you can say that there's a circling sun down there. It doesn't take much bravery to do that because it's what everybody believes. You're not really going out on a limb. So it's like I heard him say a couple times, he'll say, oh, well, everybody in the flat Earth is changing their belief now, but nobody in the globe Earth is changing their belief. It's like, yeah, why would they? What are you talking about? Like that's the secure place to be, is believing in the globe. You have no reason to think differently until it's either observed or seen, or because these people, they don't listen to us. And this is something I've noted, right? They don't actually care what we've got to say.
True. Yeah.
They've kind of become what the flat earthers have become recently, which is the globe has always said that it doesn't matter what you say, the Earth is a globe. They don't care what tests we do at Salton Sea. They don't care how far you can see. They don't care any of that. They say the Earth's a globe because it is, and that's just it.
And Salton Sea, doctoring the footage a little bit as well to promote what they wanted to have believed and seen. It seems, though, that maybe there's insider information that has got to Duffy that caused him to actually decide to do this experiment. Or maybe he already has been on that trip before, or a good friend of his went on that trip before and guarantees to him that there is this, this sun situation. I have no idea, but, it just seems like a weird thing from somebody out of left field, a pastor, and then with his financial background and this or that, for him to pop up. You know how they always say about every one of us when we got into flat Earth, well, he or she just came out of nowhere. Well, Will Duffy did kind of just come out of nowhere, for sure. And then this whole final experiment thing. The thing I really don't like is when he says that flat earthers all believed in that they can't go to Antarctica and that there is no 24-hour sun. The thing about me is I've never said you can't go to Antarctica. People go to Antarctica. We know there's tours to freely explore, meaning all of us could, go there with our warm clothes and, backpacks and walk around whenever we want for however long we want and do what we want and see what we want and bring as much equipment as we want and use that equipment in any way we want. That is not allowed.
Right. But that's where they lie, right? They always say like, oh, flat earthers say you can't go to Antarctica. Now look at they're going. It's like, no, we said you can't freely and independently explore Antarctica, which is true. And then they come back and say, well, you can't do that in any country. It's like, okay, but we're saying that this is the place that would have the secrets. This is the place that would have the answer. And of course, the place that has the answer right after 1958 or whatever it was that they did Operation Fishbowl and, Dominic, and then you have NASA's creation. It all seemed to coincide right with the same time that they're launching nukes at the sky, trying to get out, it seemed like. And then they had to go and protect Antarctica for some reason. So it really weird how all that ties together. And they certainly do keep you from going to Antarctica. This trip by itself is like $35,000 per person. And what that does is it makes sure that no conspiracy theorist is going there, right? Who has that kind of money? It's insane. Even if I had $10 million, I would not pay for this trip. I would never go $35,000 to go fly for 4 hours. You piss in a bucket, shit in a can, and then come back, sleep in a tent. There's like no 5-star. It's not like a vacation. It's going to suck. But
and all the warm clothes that you have to bring and all of that is taking up a lot of the weight that you need, that the weight requirements, it's eating it up, so that the amount of equipment that you have to bring with you, which is really necessary to do any kind of viewing or experiments, is minimized, which is really crazily unfair, actually.
I've been just dreading it because all the stuff here, I keep laying it out, looking at them, like, there's no way. I mean, what do I do with I got to bring 2 tripods. It's impossible. They just don't, there's nowhere to put them. And then they only let you have so many power breaks to get on the planes. So you are handicapped as far as having additional power. So they really do kind of tie you up a little bit. One of the best things I think, or the thing originally that I was like, oh, this makes all the sense, is originally we found out there was quiet hours, and it says all campers must adhere to quiet hours, which is from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. And it says they put you in your tent, you're not allowed to come out. So I was like, oh, okay, that's exactly when the sun sets. This is so easy how they've fooled everybody. Well, Duffy called them and got them to lift that restriction on us. Now, that's what he says. I have got to believe him that that's the case. If we get down there and they lock me in the tent, you're going to see some news. Man, breaks out of jail.
Yeah, so knowing like we don't all trust Duffy, obviously, there's a lot of suspicious things, like Patricia was saying, his conviction. Are there any concerns for your safety on the flat side?
I do not have any myself. No. I just think that any kind of high profile thing like this, it's better to be as public as possible. Because I think it would hurt them more to do something to that plane. And that's why Austin and I made it clear that we would want it. They have to be on the same plane as us. We're not going to get down there and then all of a sudden say, you know what, you guys take the La Bamba plane real quick and we're going to take this plane. It's raining.
Oh my God, scary.
So no, we've already told them.
Yeah, you'll be fine. That's not really my worry. And actually to go there and to deal with all of the criticism that you've had to deal with is really pretty badass of you. No one invited me to go or no one asked me to go, but I would have, if I had been asked, I would have turned it down because I don't want to be in the cold. And, I know women can take the cold just as well as men, but I'm kind of not a very strong woman type woman. I'm not that, I'm not that manly. I just would have definitely said no to it because it's just uncomfortable. And even for you, Jaron, you're a tall guy, you're a big guy, but for you, it's going to be really uncomfortable. And you're doing it. You're taking one for the team, and where the chips fall, they'll fall where they may. And you've taken a lot of hits to your reputation with all of the trash talking that's been going on, and you've held up really remarkably well. It's very hard not to lash out back when people are saying things. And although you have lashed out back a few times because you're human, you've maintained your dignity really well. And, really props to you for that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been interesting. I thought some people that I would even consider friends that just completely turned on you. What are you going to do? The problem with the internet, though, is that people they burn bridges. It would never have happened in real life, right? In real life, you never have these moments where somebody just goes off and calls you every name in the book. And YouTube encourages it. If you make a video saying Mark Sargent is a shill, you're going to get more views. And so what it does is that person who's the creator sees that and then thinks, oh, this is the direction I got to go, right? I'm getting more views. Well, what I've seen after being here for 9 years is that those views are fleeting. They'll eventually disappear and you'll be left with even less because you're attacking somebody that's part of the community, that people in the community who have met Mark know Mark. And so they're just baseless. And yeah, you're going to get more views, but then eventually you're going to have less views. And now you're not going to have people that want to listen to you. So that's going to happen to the same people again. And you just got to wait for it to happen. It just sucks to have happen because they really do burn bridges. It's not something that can be repaired with a I'm sorry, when you start.
Well, anybody who goes around it, who's within the flat earth community and then attacks somebody in the flat earth, maybe they have reasons to do so one way or the other, but straight up attacking and making videos is never really the right way. The right way is to have a conversation and let the conversation have all of the questions in it and then be done with it. And then just don't go back to your channel and continue attacking. And then those people generally start attacking other members of the community. It is 100% guaranteed. I've seen it myself. There's no attack on one person and then they stop. They climb through the community and attack more and more because they understand that is what gets them subs, which is ridiculous because most of those people that do the attacking have very fine minds and very fine channels and could do great without attacking. That's the crazy part. But maybe it's like a lack of self-confidence or the desire to have a leg up, which is why the attacking fits their profile. They like to be that badass, the antagonist or something.
They see it as an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity for them to kind of, they think, oh, everybody's demonizing Jaren right now. I'll get on that boat. I'll demonize them. I'll call them out. And then I'll kind of take that spot or I'll move up in the ladder. That's their thought process. But again,
and that's so frustrating. I mean, as a new kid on the block, I want to see the flat earth community come together to be supportive. I get there's always going to be drama and, those bad seeds out there. But I tip my hat off to you for keeping your head up, for coming on our show and having that opportunity to clear the air for our viewers, because everyone's been kind of wondering. And I think, look, it's perfectly okay to not know exactly how this mystical realm works in its entirety, but it seems like the A map is going to be pretty accurate and it'll be epic to see, and maybe we can convert some trolls. I mean, I hope that you guys get some one-on-one time with McKeegan or Duffy, and nothing would be more exciting than one of them to convert and come over to our side. So any chance that you see that happening, I don't know, but that's my little dream.
Not a snowball's chance in hell to use an ice and snow.
They claim that if the sun's they'll all delete their channel. That's what they say. But again, it's just a very cocky position to take because you're a Glober and you feel like If you're McToon, it's the same thing I've always said about Neil deGrasse Tyson or somebody, their mind is not even going to allow them to even contemplate that they're wrong. Just they've been given a degree, told how smart they are, then they've gone on and told children and stood in front of groups and preached it and talked about it. Your mind then puts up a protection. It's not going to allow you to even consider that you might be wrong. So
yeah, they've been handed over to their delusion. That's straight out of just.
But there is a possibility that there is a 24-hour sun in Antarctica because the world is full of all sorts of possibilities and things like that. I know that would really debunk the AE map such as it is. And like I said, other people have other maps that may or may not work. I don't know. I'm not a map person, but Jaron, you guys say no, those maps will have other maps that may or may not work. I don't know. I'm not a map person, but Jaron, you guys say no, those maps don't work.
So far, but that's a challenge to people to keep digging.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And I have heard you say that if you see that sun the way that the AE map says it's not going to be, you're going to be saying, to coin or to use a phrase you used before, interesting, and you're going to come back with all the footage and you're going to tell everybody what you saw. You're going to show people what you've seen and explain what you felt and what happened, and then you're going to kind of think about what you're going to do with your life, which is a huge thing. It's huge. It's just so huge. But you have said that we as flat earthers, if this is seen, we can't just say, oh, well, it's still flat. It doesn't.
You can say that. I mean, anybody can say anything.
I mean, anybody can say anything for sure. But,
but I don't want to be on that team. My thought is that from the very beginning of this, we said we're not going to be the pseudoscience side. We're going to be the scientific side. We're going to go off observations. We're going to go after testing. Now, today, that's totally different. People have completely just thrown that away. But I'm still an old school, from the beginning, flat earth guy that we were constantly with Bob Nodell, myself, Globebusters, everybody, constantly trying to fill holes, make sure we understood how things worked. If something didn't work, we studied it, we researched until we figured out how it worked. And that's just how we went about it. We could have just thrown up our hands at any point and just said, it doesn't matter what happens or what we see. And then we all could have just been flat earthers and lived forever with flat earth. But we actually did want to supplant the globe. And in order to supplant the globe, you have to be the better descriptor of reality. You can't just say the earth is different than, and then them say, well, we have all these observations and we have these predictions and you guys don't even know what the sun does. That's silly to me. And I don't have a problem with, like I said, I go by where the evidence is. So if that were to happen and then somebody were to find a map that works, then I'll be a flat earther in an instant. But as far as coming back and saying, well, no, we saw the sun circle, which is exactly what the globe calls for, and it's can't be explained on any flat map that we've ever seen. Nobody can explain it. Not Robotham, not Lady Blount, not Shackleton, not, all these people that were Shenton. I mean,
not Eric Dubé. I mean,
nobody's ever been able to explain that. That's why it's a mutually exclusive observation to me. And
but it doesn't mean that NASA, all the footage, all the fakery, all the ISS fakery, all that is legit.
Here's how you know if I've been compromised: is if I say anything like that we're spinning, or that we went to the moon, or that
we went to the moon,
or that the sun is 93 million miles away, or that any of that is not determinable by this observation. The only thing that's observable to me or determinable, and this is maybe a personal thing, that for 9 years I've been promoting that map, the AE map. And if it's wrong, and which I consider to be fatally wrong, if that happens, then I don't think it's fair to be like, well, okay, I was wrong about that, but let's just keep going and keep calling it flat. Well, no, I mean, you were wrong for 9 years. The way I talked about undersea cables, the way I've tried to explain plane flights, the way I've tried to explain the long distance plane flights, all that stuff is explaining it off the AE map. So to just be shown that
but the undersea cables are still there, though.
Or not there, you mean? Right. They're not there.
Not all the way that south, you're saying.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So right. There's no undersea cables in the south. There's no cruises in the south. And then I would have to start investigating, I guess, which sounds crazy. Because, I mean, here's the problem, is because science sucks so bad and that they fake things. And I mean, Stephen Hawking faked his helicopter going behind 6 miles worth of water.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me, okay, you're right about the flat earth. Now, if we saw the circling sun, then the first place I'm going to go is to PBS, and I'm going to break down that door and say, what are you idiots doing? Like, the reason that people would consider the flat earth still true is because you guys faked an observation that you said was proof of the earth curve. So that's why.
Well, even National Geographic was a proof of the curve. They faked that one too.
Right. I mean, they had to lie my experiment behind the curve. So all
Yes.
things lead me to know that the AE map is correct, that what we've been pushing the whole time is correct. Yeah, you've got a bunch of confident globers, but that shouldn't cause the meltdown that we've seen, which is people saying, oh, we never believed in the AE map, and I never believe in anything, and we don't know what the sun does. It's like, can you believe that? Somebody's going around telling our own side that we don't know what the sun does when we know where the sun is at all times. You know what time it's going to rise tomorrow and the day after and next month and 6 months and in 6 years.
Well, Nathan Oakley did that tracking the sun thing too, where people would call in and say where the sun was. I remember that whole thing. I was a part of it. Maybe you guys were too. But
we've got
people knew where the sun was.
Yeah, they say we don't know that the sun circles. And it's like, okay, so this is just going completely backwards. I mean, you set us back 9 years. We've already determined these things. Like there's no question. Like, you can't prove it. Prove what? That the sun circles? Yes, we can. Everybody in the north sees the sun go around them. Talk to somebody in Norway. Talk to somebody in Alaska. Talk to somebody in Sweden. Now kind of pull it down. You can just move from there and realize that the sun does circle. Put somebody in each of the continents. They're like trying to make new maps with them. Like, we know the order of the continents because the sun goes in order. You'll never have the sun hit South America and then Africa. It has to hit Africa, then South America, then New Zealand, then Australia, then, it goes in a circle. So it's just crazy to see. And then the worst thing is, I can understand a creator saying that, but all the people that follow along that just go, yeah, it's true. We don't know what the sun does, and it could be anything. And again, that's okay if you want to have that belief, but just don't expect me to want to join you. Because I think I don't want to just have a whim that has no basis in reality. So
what about the two suns that like Crow 777's been talking about, that he thinks there might be two suns?
Well, I think so too, but they're talking about two suns right next to each other. Right. So there's nobody's ever seeing a sun over there and a sun over there. So,
I think it's fun to brainstorm just for a second what could possibly be, just for our viewers, to say, hey, if you see a second sun, it doesn't mean we're automatically back in space and that the heliocentric model is real. It means there's something else going on here we don't fully understand. Because if you shine a light through a glass dome, it will project a visual of the hot spot on one side of the glass dome as well as on the other. So I don't know, do you think that there's any possibility of something like that, of light being projected through?
The good thing is that we're going down there, right? So this is what I want people to realize, because I heard people, what about a second sun? What about a reflection sun? It's like, yeah, that's why we're going there. Because we'll be able to see those things. I mean, there's enough people there with enough cameras, with enough observations that we'll notice if something funky goes on. If there's a second sun that comes in from even the outer lands, let's say that there's more land south of Antarctica, well, there's another sun coming in. We're going to see them morph. If there's a reflection sun, like, I agree that through a dome or anything like that, you're going to get that secondary glare, whatever you call it. But if you zoom in on it, you won't see the sunspots. You won't see, it's not the sun. It's a reflection of the sun. So it doesn't have the same characteristics. There would always be the sun. And so that's the one we're going to be watching. And then if there's anything, we'll see it, we'll film it. But I'm not concerned with any of that because I think that we'll be able to tell. And here's the thing, we deserve to know. Right? Like, for instance, right now, if I told Mark, draw a map for me that works on flat Earth, the problem with it is he doesn't even know if there's a circling sun in the south. So how do you draw a map when you don't know what the sun's going to do down there? So we have a pretty good understanding of what happens in the north. We have a pretty good understanding of what happens with the south and the tropics. We don't have an understanding of what happens with the southern sun. We need to know that. And then once we know that, you're right. If it does circle, then we need to come back and say, all right, let's go back to the drawing board. That's what I would hope, rather than people just say it doesn't matter and we're still going to be flat. No. That's, again, if you want to be on that camp, that's fine. I'm not.
Now is what I always thought you meant by all of the things I've heard people say that you said, but I never heard you actually say them. You're saying if you come back and you see that circling sun, it's back to the drawing board. It's what the hell's going on here?
Because
it's not NASA's correct and there's an ISS and blah, 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 blah. I'm a glober now. It's not that. It
would mean that the globe has the better evidence at the current time of the reality that we witness. Now, again, I'm challenging people because I want them to start thinking about it, or at least be ready that, we need to go back to the drawing board. Or you can be in the team that says it's just flat because we say it is, and we don't care what observation. But then I just want people to realize that's the glober. That's the exact we went up against them at the beginning. They were the team that said, we don't care what you see. The earth is a ball. And we all laughed and joked at them. To just become them and now just turn the tides, to me, just seems petty. It's just you're not going to get anywhere in life like that. If you think you can just declare something to be true and then despite evidence just keep declaring it to be true, that's not a good way to live life. That's just a fantasy. So I don't want to be part of a fantasy. I believe that the earth is flat because observationally it's flat. When we measure it, it measures flat. I've seen too far. The mirror flashes that we've seen, and then you have these guys faking it. They had to lie about my experiment. If you can just prove the globe, you don't need to lie about my experiment. If you can prove the globe, you don't need to use CGI helicopters to put them behind walls of water. You don't need Nat Geo to say, oh, it's behind the curve now, and we see 2.5 stripes missing when it was just not even close to that. It was an optical illusion. So all those things together tell me that there's a huge lie at play, and that I think it's possible that there is no circling sun down there. And so that's what we've always said. Why would there be no 24-hour live stream or even time lapse of that from the South Pole webcams? You can go there right now. There's 2004 through 2024. That's 20 years of observations. There's not one video of a 24-hour day. And
some of the video is if you slow it down, it's played backwards. You can see the people walking backwards. Why are they showing that?
It's cut. When I tried to email them and ask them, they're like, oh, we have got it with a script that automatically removes black scenes when it's dark. And I said, no, I'm talking about the 24-hour sun. So there is no dark. So can you give me, can you explain why? And then she would come back and say, oh, well, no, it's the script because it removes black scenes, so it saves bandwidth. I'm like, no, you're not paying attention here. 24-hour sun. There is no black scenes. There is no dark scenes. So where's the rest of the video that's there? They just could never answer it. Eventually, they told me I have to talk to my government. That's when I got an email. So there's just signs that have been over the 9 years that don't make any sense if the Earth is a sphere. None of it. So if I were to go down there and see the sun circle, I'm going to be pretty pissed off at a bunch of people and a bunch of organizations, and you probably don't want to see that side of me because I will not be pleased that I've been promoting something for 9 years to find out that it's almost like a psyop, that somebody wants this argument to happen. Somebody wants us to hate each other. Somebody wants this debate rather than just...
Yeah, which would mean they're hiding something else that we don't even know that's even bigger than, quote, flat Earth.
Which I tend to think I kind of know what that is, but it's besides the point. It's still we have to take
well, what would it be?
Yeah, what do you think?
Well, I think that there's... I just think that there's bigger lies. They definitely the hiding God, right? So that's right.
Yeah.
But I think that the people that use God for their own personal gain are all happy to do so. So I don't think that they want to buck that either. But I'm just saying that the debate between these two kind of is set up in a way with church versus science, right? That's the way they've always wanted it to look. Church versus science. It's Galileo got put on house arrest, and he had to spend the rest of his life in jail. All these kind of things, or house arrest. But it's just like they try and make this whole storyline of that. So what I think is ultimately happening, I think there's going to be some sort of reset sometime soon. They probably expect it. I don't know if it's this comet that comes through. Who knows what it is? What do they call it? Apophis or something? But I mean, there's a reason why NASA kicks the can constantly. They never actually do anything. It's like my video that I made, NASA going nowhere since 1958. It's just a game where they go back and forth between the presidents. And you watch. I already predicted who the last 3 presidents were, and I'll predict what will happen when Trump becomes president. He'll name Jim Bridenstine the head of NASA again, and then he'll say, we don't need to go to the moon, get us to Mars, and it will do the exact same thing they've done for the last 55 years, which is they spend 8 years of money putting into one thing, then the new president comes in, and then they switch it back to the other. So it goes Mars, moon, Mars, moon. So nothing ever gets done, and nobody ever expects anything to get done. It is, if any company ran the way NASA does, they would be out of business in no time. James Webb Telescope, right? It was like budgeted for like 1.3 billion and 7 years, and it ended up being like 20 years and 11 billion. Like, who doesn't get fired for their job for being over budget by that much? And what has it done? Nothing. It's just pictures of...
Well, that's one of the clues for me too, that as being such an avid space enthusiast and a glober for so long, I knew that they had been kicking the can down just kind of subconsciously. When I came to Flat Earth, I was like, that's why it was a piece of the puzzle that wasn't clicking before. Right. So I'm still trying to catch up with everything that you guys know, and super interesting to me to know your guys' history and to hear your thoughts on all this. But is there any insider information that you've come across from people that in Antarctica? I feel like this would have been debunked a long time ago with all the flat earthers that are connected. So how much insider info do we have from people who have been in Antarctica and said, no, there is no 24-hour sun?
Well, I think everybody who said that, if you kind of look into it, it kind of meets the area that they're in. So I think we are all under a weird assumption that we've all thought that the 24-hour sun would happen everywhere. And really, and then some people think it only happens for a couple months. I mean, technically at the South Pole, it should happen for 6 months. It should be 6 months of the sun circling, and then it sets, and then 6 months of darkness. And then as you move away from the South Pole, it would get less and less amount of time that's that. So, no, as far as insider information, I know Nathan Oakley interviewed a guy, but he was at McMurdo, and McMurdo really wouldn't necessarily have a circling sun because it's towards the outskirts of Antarctica. A lot of people go down there on cruises, and no cruise gets it within the 66 degrees, so no cruise would ever see the 24-hour sun. So really, it would be very exclusive. This is why I thought nobody would ever be able to find out, because I said, well, we're not going to get within the walls of Antarctica. We might get to the shore. We might be able to take a cruise down there, but we're never going to be allowed inside the wall. So when Duffy came back and said he had gotten this 80 degrees, that's when I started looking into it. Like, wait, you're going to 80 degrees? So I looked at it, saw that it's a camp, kind of did some research on the camp, and then really started talking to Whitsitt, and I just said, personally, I think we're the best ones for this. I said, if we don't do it, it's going to be somebody else, and we don't know what's going to happen. I trust Whitsitt.
Yeah.
I know he can't take a buyout. I know he would not take a buyout. I know that he's a believer in God like I am, that we don't have any desire to be famous or to be propped up. So we just talked about it and said that, if, things could work out. If he's willing to pay for it all, we don't have any money to lose on the trip. So it's not like we can spend our money on the trip. And so we just kind of laid out for ourselves what it would take for us to go. And then we started writing the contract and just thought, well, it probably won't accept a lot of these terms. So it probably won't be us. But as we would go back with the contract, he would look at it and say, well, I don't like these 3 parts. We would look at it and say, okay, I see why he doesn't. We'd kind of clean those up, and it went down to the last. We had 5 minutes basically to sign the contract. And we submitted our final copy and just said, hey, well, if it is meant to be, it's meant to be. And Duffy came back and said, okay, I'll sign that. And we're like, really?
You learned a lot about contracts from Behind the Curve.
Yeah, and that's another thing is that I looked at it and I said, look, I know what happened with Behind the Curve, and that those mistakes will never be made again. Number one was that I didn't have anybody filming the experiment. So when a documentary film crew calls you and says, hey, can we film your experiment? It's like, sure, I don't have anybody else to film it. Why don't you guys? Oh, yeah, we got drones. We got multiple cameras. Okay, great. Not thinking about the fact that if they wanted to change whatever they wanted to say happened, well, there is no evidence of me to say they didn't. So that's a problem. And then the second thing is you guys signed the same paper I did. We signed a document that said they could use us however they wanted. I mean,
and they did.
And they did. So, I mean, that's just stupid on our part. They followed me around. I was the last one to sign. And they were following me around at my experiment, just like everybody else signed. And we were doing it on the up and up. We want to show you guys in a good light. And they convinced me that they were telling the truth. And then they weren't. So in this case, we said, I told
yeah, super interesting.
Yeah, so
that was my first exposure to you guys. How did you feel then? I mean, obviously, you must have just been so upset and felt violated the way that they portrayed.
It was actually Patricia who told me. She had gone to see. I messaged her, said, "How was it?" And she goes, "It was good. It was good. You know, the ending was a little." And I'm like, "What was the ending?" And she goes, "Oh, it was you." It's like, "What do you mean?" "Oh, it was you at your experiment when you said interesting." I'm like, "What do you mean? I didn't. What do you mean said interesting?" Well, like she even thought it was like the last scene. You thought it was the end of the experiment. So even she didn't put, because again, they make it seem like that rather than in the middle of 20 observations where some were flat, some were curved. That's why we all walked away from there thinking, no, nothing was proven here. The only people that walked away from there rubbing their hands together was the documentary film crew, I bet.
We've got explain that for our viewers, because that's my first exposure to you three was Behind the Curve, and then later it had sunk in my mind and I went back. But so now I look at Behind the Curve as the biggest badge of honor, just so you guys all know, and that it's really cool because it was a huge, massive, expensive hit piece on flat Earth. So I know at the time it was probably very discouraging and it's super frustrating. Again, I have mad respect for you all for going through that. And how did that reaction, I mean, did your friends and family give you shit for it? I mean, what were you going through after that came out?
No, most people took what I had to say, right, and told them, no, here's what really happened, and explained it, and then they're like, oh, typical, But as far as, the people who didn't let up are the Globers and then other flat earthers, right? So questions about it, why did you do that? You basically saying we were shills or that we were a part of it, rather than just mistake, that. And again, do I wish it didn't happen? Of course. But at the same time, it also reconfirmed my belief because, again, you could have just gone out and proven the curve. Why would you need to misrepresent my experiment? It just seems like you couldn't prove curve, and that's your only option to end the movie. So
good point.
So I took it as a win for us. Now, people like Alex Stein say he came along because of Behind the Curve. I have met quite a few people who say that, but I think it's probably done more damage than anything. I mean, I wouldn't dare say it has done more good than bad. But maybe it has. Maybe, the thing is, you just want people to look into this, right? And so maybe enough people saw it and then they go looking into it. But the problem with it now is even if they go looking into it, they don't find the good stuff. It's gone.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to say what that did in the long run. But I've just always been under the assumption if the Earth is flat, then it will be shown that, eventually the truth is not going to go away. So
what it did was make those people a whole bunch of money in a way that was really immoral. And I rue the day I ever had Daniel in my house and treated him with kindness and courtesy and had food for him and spoke with him openly about things. And all the while, he was just waiting for me to say something like edgy or weird so that he could put it in his documentary. Because I think he had, once he knew who we were, in his mind, you, Mark, everybody, what our, quote, character was and how he would use our character in the film and try to get us in situations where that character would do certain things in the character arc. And it's really disgusting, actually.
Can I chime in for 1 second? There was a part, Patricia knows this, and Jaron, I don't know if we told him this, not only did they misrepresent people, but they also left out anything that leaned in our favor, anything they could. Right. And there was this moment where Patricia and I are down at the Houston Space Center, and we're in the big space shuttle that's sitting on top of the 747 outside of it. And Patricia remembers this. And I'll be damned if Robert Simmons' blue marble shot that he made for the iPhone back in the day is sitting there posterized on the wall with no caption. And of course, we recognized it in 2 seconds. And in fact, Patricia may have been the one that spotted it. And I dragged Daniel over and it's like, look, this is the shot we're talking about. It's like, look, this is sitting in NASA. This is actually, because you're NASA engineer, you own the rights. NASA owns the rights to this because Robert Simmons was the guy that made it. And I go, look, there's the cloning tool used in the Southern Hemisphere. He cloned everything in the Southern Hemisphere. And they could not have been less interested. They absolutely did not shoot a single frame of what we were talking about. It's like, look, it's right there in front of you. It's like, this was the default iPhone globe on the first iPhone that ever came out. But they were interested in falsely portraying that you didn't press a button that you did press.
I know.
The takeaway.
Or shooting a house next to Jaren's that made Jaren look like a broke ass mofo when he really isn't.
And then he told me, he said, can I come by and talk to you about the experiment and get an idea? Yes, I didn't get dressed up or anything. I didn't know that was going to be in the movie. And he came over with like a little camera, like a little handheld camera, like a little Icon Coolpix or something. And was just kind of filming with that and just, okay, lay it out for me. So I'm sitting on my couch kind of talking to him. And then I ended up in the movie. And he also was like taking pictures of my neighbor's house, and he would be talking to me and then cut to the neighbor's house, which had like 15 cats living underneath it. It was just very weird.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And for me, they focused on my cats, which is really great because I love cats. And I have 3 of them. But they purposely had my character be a crazy older woman, crazy cat lady. So whenever they showed me, they would show a lot of cats to push that home. And that's what they did. They had a character in mind for everyone. Same as Mark, who was at his sister's house, but they made it be like his mom's cooking for him. Oh, living in his mom's basement. Yeah. It was really, wow. They must have had these meetings where they had a storyboard with our pictures on it and then lines drawn to how they would portray us. I mean, we are unique characters, but every single person is.
These guys are just,
they definitely took the dark side.
That's the difference, right? They're deceivers. I mean, I asked Caroline in North Carolina, I said, hey, because she wanted me to sign, I said, can you just give me some copies of your work? Give me some links to some of your other documentaries so I can see the work that you've done. So when I got back, she sent me like 5 links in an email, and I went and checked them out, and they were like little documentaries about gaming and a little one about
like art school stuff.
It's like really kind of just mundane. So I said, okay, she seems like she's a documentary filmmaker. Great. Now coming back and finding out that she had done an anti-Sandy Hook documentary, one in which she's accused of taking the grant money that was meant for the whole school, but the teacher gave it to just her to build that one movie. She's been accused of misrepresenting Wolfgang Haubig. So for that person not to, I describe it like if Neil deGrasse Tyson was going to come on my show, and he's like, hey, can you send me a few of your videos? And I went and sent him my how to build garage shelving and how to do this and how to do that. But I just leave out by chance that I'm a flat earth or anti-globe believer. And then he comes to my show. Is that deceptive, what I did? And the answer is yes. It's very deceptive for me to do that. That's exactly what they did. So they were they had a goal all along of being deceptive. They don't care, right? They made their money. They probably got, I wouldn't even guess 6. What do you think? They got 6 digits, Mark?
It's tough to say because they were so low on funds that they had to bring in other producers to finish it. And
But
so,
they were on Amazon Prime as well as Netflix, so they sold from the small film festival they were planning on doing. They sold out to those big companies.
They did. I don't think Daniel and Caroline did as well as the producers behind them. We only saw Daniel and Caroline and Nick. The people that picked up the tab towards the end to finish this thing and bring it home, I think they were the ones that made the money. Again, it did well. I remember being in Canada, Mark, with you when there was the premiere, and we didn't know what to expect. We hadn't seen it. Yeah.
And when Scott Kelly came on, I literally felt like poking my eyes out that they got an astronaut to go on this thing to go up against us.
And if you want to believe in scripted and how things unfold, they were the ones that told, I remember Nick telling me, he goes, it was so weird. He goes, we called up, NASA just to see if we could get Scott Kelly, and they said yes without a hesitation. We had him for almost like exactly 10 minutes, and we used every freaking frame that we could from him. And
I found out about flat Earth when I was
in space.
On the
and Nick
ISS
said,
in space.
Nick swears to me, he said that, he goes, I swear the only reason he came and talked to us was to deliver that one line.
Yes.
And that's
not
the line
written by him.
That's the line that was used in the trailer, which was, I first found out about flat Earth when I was in space. And which
is ridiculous anyway on the face of it, because everyone has heard of flat Earth at some time, even in their childhood. It's a thing. It's a butt of jokes. Yeah.
But it was a great NASA spin, which was, well, flat Earth is absolutely ridiculous because I'm credible. I'm an astronaut, and I was in space. You can trust me, even though I'm a colonel in the United States military. It's like, okay, sure. Why not?
The amount of effort that they took to smear you guys and to smear Flat Earth, it was probably just painful at the time, and maybe it did turn a lot of people off. I'm one of those people that goes, oh, they're lovable, but yeah, they're kind of just in their own world. They're so anti-establishment that they believe this, even though there's no proof. That was kind of my takeaway. When I got into Flat Earth later, I went looking for you guys, found Mark Sargent's clues, boom, slowly but surely my journey was like, wow, they were actually right all along. That's the crazy part. So, hey, no matter what it is now, looking back, it's badass. Sorry
what made
for the
you
language.
What made you go from watching the movie and then saying, okay, these guys are crazy and they don't have any evidence, to then allowing yourself to look into it again? What was the catalyst there?
Well, my personal journey, I don't know how much you know, but it's been rooted in a divine intervention in my life. So I was going to ask you, because you said, you believe in God. Did you always believe in God, or did Flat Earth change that for you?
No, Flat Earth definitely brought it back. My wife and I had become atheists right before that for about 6 months, but I noticed that the atheism was just another religion, right? They didn't actually have any evidence of these things. They were just, I believed in evolution because I was like, okay, it must be true. And then when you start looking into the age of the Earth and dating rocks, and before you know it, you just realize everybody who believes it just basically spits the rhetoric, the dogma, and they don't actually have the evidence that would require. So then I said, okay, those are both religions, religion and science. So it's better to be in the middle and build your own beliefs from the ground up. But I saw somebody asked earlier, did Jaren's wife really just come out of, is it flat from nowhere? And the answer is yes. We had a 2-story house, and when you looked out our second story, we were at the kind of like a T joint in a street, and we were right at the T, so you could look down a street long this way, right straight from our house, and you could see far away to the horizon, and it looked flat from the upstairs from our bedroom. So we had said we were going to start our beliefs all over again, and she just happened to be looking out the window and said, could the Earth be flat? And I said, no, that's ridiculous. But then she's like, oh, I thought we were starting from the ground up. And I'm like, well, yeah, we are, but not that low. So when I saw the A map, I realized, oh shit, maybe there's something to this. And then I tried to debunk it and realized there was something to it. So,
yeah. So, how much stock or interest do you have in the Bible and its wisdom into flat Earth?
Well, I have a different opinion than most people. I don't think that the Bible is divine, or it might have pieces that are true and divine, but there's enough in there that I call into question. I was talking to somebody last night, and I was saying things that they were kind of upset at, and they're like, "What do you mean? You keep saying that the Bible is exactly what you would expect if it was a deception? What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I'm just saying that if it said something in there like all governments are placed there by God, I would, we should have a question as to, are really all governments placed there by God?" So there's enough clues in the Bible that tell you why would God would never say that. Basically, the Bible tells you that to hate the world. Don't love the world that you're in, to hate it. Right? Don't love the world. Don't be a part of the world. But this is the greatest thing we've ever been given. God would tell you to love this world. not to hate it. It doesn't make any sense. Like, oh, we're not of this world. What do you mean? Why would God put us in a place that we're not of and be like, I hope that they hate this world? God's not like that. So there's just enough things in there that tell me that it's a deception put there by the elite. Now, how much of it was it originally divine and they've changed it? I don't know, but I just don't. The God I believe in, I'd give a lot more credit than to put the words of God in a book and hand them to man and act like they wouldn't get corrupted and destroyed. So that's just me. Again, I believe in the Christian ideals. I would raise my child like you would call it Christian. I believe in Jesus. I believe Jesus was a good person. I believe that he was probably the first one that came trying to change people's perception of who God was. And he said, no, the kingdom of God is within you. It's not over there. It's not over there. And he kind of, was the first person to kind of tell people that the kingdom of God is within you. God is within you. I and the Father are one, which is, I think, true for all of us. We are all the Son of God. So I think that, but I think that he probably said some things about the Old Testament God, changed the way that some of the things were done. Like, God killed people who picked up things on the Sabbath in the Old Testament. Jesus is doing things on the Sabbath, and they ask him, what are you doing? And he says, well, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath, which is actually against what God said. So I think he changed some things, or tried to change some things, and I think the Jews killed him for it. So they said, you're not gonna put any, you're not gonna put a bad name on our God. And then to even go further, they actually said, well, now we'll just tell people that he is God, because then they are actually worshiping Jehovah, which is what they want. So again, for me, it's just, I know people, it's not a positive, or not a positive take that people like, but that's what they've learned to get from me, because I've never cared about pleasing my audience. As you can tell, my numbers just keep going backwards. And that's because if we're not recommended, right, I start losing viewers, my only option is to cater to what they want to hear. That's the only way to get viewers back. If I keep speaking against then they all have left. So I've lost a huge majority of my viewers. It's because they want to be patted on the back and told everything they believe in is true, which is not my job. Maybe they can go to other channels to get that, but not here. So
Well, there's, thank you for sharing that. There's a lot to unpack with what you've said. And for me, since you had asked, how did I get into Flat Earth? Why did I start looking back into Behind the Curve? I mean, originally I had heard of Flat Earth through a close relative who was a Navy SEAL, and they just kind of brought it up to me, and I thought that was interesting. And I'm like, all right, but it wasn't clicking that their space also has to be thrown out, that you have to get rid of it, that it's fake. That never sunk in. So when I watched Behind the Curve, I still wasn't kind of putting two and two together. I thought you guys were lovable, but also, like I said, just completely just off your rockers. But going back, Flat Earth, I started to get into learning about, feeling more of a spiritual calling. And so I've put a lot of time and energy into understanding what does science have to say about how our universe works, which, kind of like we said, I started to realize they don't have a lot of information. So then I started to look into, okay, what do they know about evolution? I was just kind of feeling called and extra curious into these things, and I was realizing they don't have a lot of information and proof of evolution either. And then I was kind of feeling that this evil is right around lockdown, and I'm seeing a lot of satanic symbolism, and I'm feeling, okay, evil is overwhelmingly got to be real because of all these terrible things that are happening. And then it was, okay, why don't you try to see what the New Age people say? They think aliens created us, and they're going to come back and introduce us to the Galactic Federation, or admit that they seeded us and they, pushed our DNA forward, and that maybe they even built this place. There's all these theories in the New Age world. And the final kind of piece of the puzzle for me at that point in my life, around 35 years old, was to read the Bible and go, look, give it the benefit of the doubt, suspend disbelief. If it says it's written by God, why not just entertain the thought? Because whatever created this place knows that this book exists, and maybe it is from that creator, or either way, if it's not really from the creator, whoever created this place knows it's there, and it's super controversial, right? And I'm like, look, knowledge is power. Why not just study it for myself? So, my takeaway was, as I dove into the Bible, I found a lot of wisdom there. So it's interesting to me. It says there's one sun and one moon, that they're both lights, equal, one to rule the day, one to rule the night, a greater and lesser light. So that I kind of look at everything through the lens of, what if this book continues to be right? Then it would if you don't see a 24-hour sun, then it gives more credibility. The stock goes up more for this biblical book, right? This narrative that has a lot of insight into our world. So I kind of just always use it as another resource for me to observe the world, another lens. And the last thing that I'll say on that is my understanding of when it says don't be of the world, or it's not saying to hate the world, it's saying don't be of the system. That's how I was always taught. And I was raised Jehovah's Witness. So I had to come to a point in my life to really try to understand what was I taught from a young age and see if I believed it as an adult. And that's when more controversial things started to happen in my life, and I started to really understand that I didn't agree with what their doctrine was, and I was kind of reading the Bible for myself and aligning more with Jesus's teaching. And so, again, not the time and the place to kind of go over all your points, but I think it's super interesting to kind of talk about them at some point in the future and to really always use the Bible as a what if scenario rather than saying, oh, we put your stake in the ground, be like, it's so real. For me, it's been very powerful. I'm on a spiritual journey. I'm really curious to see if it's correct, if it's going to continue to be correct. But at the same time, I respect what you believe and what you have said and shared on the show.
I think what you said is important there. I do believe that there's a lot of good in there. And if you read it and you're able to take the good and leave the bad, then it's probably the best book of all time. The problem is that people have latched onto it as it's some sort of infallible document, which it's just not. I mean, it says slaves obey your masters as if they're God. That's what it says. So that's not written by God. God would never tell slaves to obey their slave owners as if the slave owner is God. And so it's very easy for me to just dismiss some. And if I can dismiss that, then I can just say, okay, it's not the God's breathed word. But I do believe that I believe in Jesus' 2 commandments: to love your neighbor and love God more than anything. I believe that's true. Love your neighbor as you would love yourself. Those things are all great words of wisdom forever. The Beatitudes is one of the most beautiful things ever written, period. So, but I think that it is corrupt. I grew up in a Catholic church, basically, and went to an all-boys Catholic Jesuit high school where I saw what they were doing there. They want you in a belief system. They don't care whether it's religion or science. They just push you into a belief system because if you are part of a belief system, then they can predict how you will react. And that's what they want, right? That's basically like the data that they get from the internet now. Your search history, they can predict what you're going to do. They can predict how you're going to react. And again, I just have found issues with people saying, "Oh, the Bible's so suppressed," and they try and hide it, yet it's in every drawer in every hotel room. So there's little things that should clue people in to, if they wanted to get rid of it, it wouldn't be here. They would have gotten rid of it. They would have thrown it.
I mean, you bring up a lot of interesting points that I've thought of those things too, and it'd be fun someday to go back and forth and just have a friendly discussion about it, because I know it's super controversial and triggering for a lot of people.
I don't want because it's like, but just I think people need to remember that we can have different opinions and still coexist and be friends. What happened to some for this whole thing? People fell off that train and they felt like, if you don't believe everything that I do, meaning we can have the same beliefs up to the point where you get to January 6th, and then if I believe that Ashley Babbitt died and somebody thinks that it was fake, at that point I'm a shill, and then to throw their hand, and then it's like, well, no, that's never going to be the way life works. If 2 people have the same beliefs, then one of them is useless. It's just pointless to have people who have the same beliefs. Why would you ever have the same beliefs as somebody else? I don't see the purpose of you. So, and that's what science is, right? That's what Simon Dan is, and McToon and FTFE. They're useless because they believe what's in the physics book. We don't need to ask them. We don't need to ask them, what do you believe about this, or what do you believe about? Because they're really not themselves. They are repeaters of the information that the mainstream wants, and that's embarrassing to me. And I will never be that. But those people, they don't look into things. They don't research things. I mean, we would, if we never pointed out to Stephen Hawking faking the helicopter, nobody would have ever known. If we didn't do the work that we've done, these things would have just gone, because Globers only question what they're told to question. They're told to question religion, so they question that. They're told to question, pseudoscience, like ghosts and things like that, so they question that. But outside of that, they don't even have the balls to question things in science, because that's like against their religion. So really, they act like they're not religious, but they're some of the biggest religious people that there are, right? Dogma, the high priests. So how could you ever question these things, even though they're like evolution is the worst substantiated belief or theory of all time. I mean, there's no animal before the hippo. The hippo just shows up in the fossil record. Okay, that's like what happens if something's created. But there's no animal before the giraffe. There's no animal before any animal. So so those things were created and placed here. There's no giraffe with a short neck, and then one with a shorter neck, and then one was kind of a giraffe. And no, there's no these species don't exist, and transitional species. And that should have been dismissed a long time ago. And then they should look into the reality of creation and have science actually study that. But because science draws the line at certain things, they just won't touch it. So I talk about the rice experiment with Dr. Emoto. One of the biggest moments of my life doing the rice experiment and seeing that you can change the quality of the rice with your words. But you can't, that's not a scientific test, because you can't measure things like love, which we know exists. So you can't do a scientific test on, well, if we give this child love, but what percentage of love did you give it? What number of love did you? So science has removed itself from reality and placed itself into a box where they have to do numbers and everything has to be measured. Well, that's not all of reality. So we're really segmenting or segregating half of life, which is the supernatural, the intuition, things like that science just says doesn't exist. There's no way you can know what somebody else is thinking from far away. And then we let them kind of lead life and institute things in schools, and that's what's being taught. So we are systematically removing any connection we had with the divine, any connection we had with each other. Who knows if they're removing it, like Rudolf Steiner said, with vaccines, getting rid of the spiritual nature. For all we know, we have connections to our spirit self, or we have connections to what's above, but we take vaccines and it maybe is eliminating that. So it's a effed up world.
And there's no such thing as settled science.
No.
There just isn't. It's just two words that shouldn't even be together.
No, yeah, the whole scientific enterprise is just gross because they've really gone to funding. It's all about money. And they want to tell us a story that like, oh, these scientists have no bias. It's like, no, they're the worst biased people of all. They think that they know everything and it's only this. It can't be religious. It can't be supernatural. So they are the heaviest biased people. And, Neil deGrasse Tyson says, oh, how science works is that if somebody goes and does an experiment on evolution and then it gets proven, or then, they show some result, well, then somebody else there is like, oh, I want to go disprove that. So they go try. It's like, no, that's not the way it works. Time out. There's nobody out there trying to disprove evolution. That is how you get fired. That's how you. So don't tell people that. Don't lie to people. Or he says, science is true whether or not you believe in it, which is completely false, because there's been science the whole time before us that has been supplanted and changed. So it wasn't true. It wasn't true. So they just lie to people, and people are so. I think it comes down to people being fearful of being wrong, made fun of. This is who the Globers are. The Globers are deathly afraid of somebody making fun of them and them being shown to be wrong about something. So they latch onto science because they're like, well, this way I'm never wrong. If you believe in science, you never have to be wrong. I can go watch football right now, go watch basketball, do whatever I want, and I'll be right tomorrow, and I'll be right the day after. And in a month, if they change the science, guess what? I'm still right because I believe in science. So it's a cheap way out, and it's an easy way out. And I think that wimps take it. People that don't have any heart or have a mind of their own, they just want to be told what to believe in, want to be told what is true, and then they repeat it and think they're smart. I don't find those people smart myself.
Yeah, well, I'm same thing. I found a lot of hopelessness when you're trying to put my faith in mankind and its ability to solve all of our problems and how to reconcile the past. And I just don't think that mankind can bring people back from the dead or can solve all these problems that are here on this earth. And so for me, I was really getting more excited the more I learned about the hope that comes with Jesus. And I'm just going to say that it really, I had to learn who Jesus was as an adult, because in the religion that I was raised, there's very little emphasis on the teaching of Jesus as the one you're supposed to love. They kind of skip over. And so I didn't really have this relationship. So I just went looking for a role model in this world that had a really good message. So I agree with you. Love one another, love God, forgive freely. Those kinds of things I think hit us at our core. And so I want to lean into those. And that brought me to Flat Earth. Literally, it was the spiritual side that as a gay person, I even couldn't deny that I was feeling like God is real. They're hiding it. And I kept repeating it to my friends, my family. And I go, I'm going to figure it out. And I knew something was off with the moon. I knew all these things weren't adding up. And it was boom, Flat Earth was just a massive wake-up call. And so when I went back and watched Behind the Curve after that and realizing you guys were onto something, then I went and looked into all the content, found your guys' material, and got super excited. And here I am today, hitching my wagon to what the world wants to say is the idiot train. And it's like, I don't care. I believe this is real, and I believe it's a divine realm, and there's a lot of hope out there. And so that's where I exist at this point, we got to think about how this place ultimately love wins, and maybe the deception that Jesus spoke about we're seeing unfold. And that means there could be a reset or an awakening. Then the Bible it's described as birthing pains, not of something terrible, but something new and beautiful. So we could be experiencing these birthing pains, and keeping an open mind and knowing that it's okay, we don't have all the answers, but trusting in the Creator is key for me at this point.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, right? And then also I believe that each person is going to have their own path to God. Believe, I think that there's one path, one book.
Absolutely.
Language seems insane. That I think that people that are born in Japan, or people that are born in a forest, or people that are born in Germany, everybody has their path to God. And I think if we treated it more like that, think about the amount of people that have been killed because of religious wars and hatred, because each thinks they have the one domain to God. The Jew thinks that they are God's chosen people. I don't believe God is racist. So To me,
well, anyway, there's a lot to unpack with all of it, but I just feel like, hey, I agree with you. We're all on a path, we're all on a journey, and I think whoever the creator is going to help those who are seeking truth figure it out before it's too late. So I do
too, right?
feel like, what was that?
I said, be a good person. That's what matters to me.
Well, and but it gets technical, and I get your viewpoint on the Bible. I hear what you're saying, and it's just hard to kind of touch on all the things that you've mentioned. But I'm still learning. I get excited knowing what if this book is actually holy, and I get excited thinking of what if it has more insight, and it'll become more clear as time goes on. So that's where I kind of rest today.
Good. We could talk in the future. I'd love to.
Sure, yeah, it'd be great. So Mark, Patricia, but getting back to the three of you, did that bring you guys closer together? Did that kind of start a rift in Flat Earth when that movie came out? Did you guys get upset? Like, how did that all go down?
I think all three of us were fine. It's the people around us. There was so much drama. There's channels, 24 hours a day fighting, making accusations, talking about us. It was crazy.
That was crazy.
It's crazy you all experienced that together and being such trailblazers.
But we still were doing the meetups and the conferences and
we
never Jaren and I remember did things later. It's like didn't even come up really. I mean, if somebody brought it up, it's like I brought it up, but I mean,
I remember shows like Bro Sanchez. Was doing a show about how we're shills, and then some other channel was doing a show about us being shills, and it was like, oh my God, I only decided to do this stupid documentary because I thought it would be a good thing because they told us they were going to show the world or whoever the film festival they were going to show it at, because that was their plan originally, what flat earthers were really like. That's all it was supposed to be about.
What was amazing to me with the media, and you know this one, DJ, Jaren probably doesn't though, which is when students would get a hold of me, being anywhere from middle school up to grad school, and I'd say, how'd you get in, how'd you find me? And it's like, oh, I saw Behind the Curve. And it's like, oh, wow, how'd that come about? It hasn't been on Netflix in a while. It ran its thing. It's like, no, it's on the syllabus. And I go, what syllabus? And it's like, it's on the class syllabus. It's required viewing for a number of classes.
That's crazy.
Everything from science to sociology to psychiatry.
But I would have to always point out, as I always do, Mark, only because it's a cautionary tale for the students to watch, to make sure this is the wrong way to think and the wrong way to be.
It is, but it still draws. You know how kids are when it's like, even if the teacher prefaces like, well, these are obviously crazy people. I'm not supposed to say that. Don't tell your parents. But you're going to watch this, and I try to remind, I mean, you've heard me say it a million times, which is like, that's how, like when somebody rails against a topic, that generally will draw more attention than to say good things. Again, Amy Adams complaining at the Oscar party that her dad's into flat earth, and all of a sudden, all these people, it's like, oh, we should look at flat earth. That seems really taboo. People
like, just say no to drugs. Well, that didn't work out so well, did it?
Right. Yeah, just learn it from you, Dad.
I went through school with thinking that everything I was being taught was the truth, and I don't think there was ever anything that came up that was like, oh, so if I would have been shown something like that when I was a kid, I would have thought, wait, there's something else it could be. So I think at least people in the 80s, we were just taught that everything that the teacher said was true.
Absolutely.
I don't know very many and knowing that some of the stuff we were being taught was false.
The line that I would find most common with the kids that I ran into was, you could tell they were the ones that wanted to go against the grain. It's like, why? Because I go, off the record, why are you doing this? Why are you writing your paper on this? Why? And it's like, well, it seemed really interesting. And all the other people in class just seemed like they were going along with it. And, just for no reason. And I wanted to look into it. It seemed kind of it's something interesting to look into it. I wasn't going to take it at face value. I'd go, good for you. You got a chance.
And also there's things like TikTok, also, YouTube, even if things are hard to find. There's a lot more ways for people to be exposed to the idea of flat earth, even if it's being, laughed at. Right. But I mean, we didn't have that when we were in school. There was no TikTok or YouTube or anything. There was the textbooks and then, just NASA stuff that might be on TV or in the newspaper. That's it.
That was it. Yeah, it's pretty incredible what people can find now. I mean, I think it's what's made people a lot more cocky, is I think because they feel like the answers are all at their fingertips. So people feel like they're much more. Whereas in the 80s, remember, if somebody would have asked something that we didn't know about, well, there's no way to know. So you had to go find an authority figure.
Right.
You had to go look up an Encyclopedia Britannica.
Right.
Telling
a story the other day, I went to the library to learn something. That's crazy to even
Right.
say.
And
Yeah.
and the influencers will almost, because as we all know, just about every big YouTube channel has done a flat Earth video in one form or another. Just about every, you just name it. They've all done it. But they will rarely, if ever, go against their base, their chat room. They can't. They won't take the chance. Because why would you? It's like, give the people what they want. My chat room wants me to destroy flat Earth, therefore I'm going to go after flat Earth. Rarely, like Shane Dawson, I think went kind of only because it was his brother, who Patricia met. Shane, Jared Yaw. That he was kind of into it, and he's the one that led Shane into it. But he was one of the rare people that didn't attack us directly. So.
Well, I find the diversity of the Flat Earth crew very interesting. In fact, the more unsuspecting people to join this kind of truth, the better it is for Flat Earth. And so, again, I just am so proud of you guys for being brave, especially when there was barely any information on this, and being brave enough to put your face.
It's not really brave. I mean, I know Jaron and Mark have put themselves out more than me, but it's not really brave. It's almost like once you hear about this stuff, you can't help yourself from looking into it. You can't, it's sleepless nights, not even just in the beginning. It's just wanting to know, wanting to research, wanting to make phone calls, wanting to look at charts, diagrams, maps. It's an obsession. It's not because we're brave. It's that we had no other choice.
That's what they tried to kill, right? So that's why, the Truman Show scene where she pulls down the map and says, but everything's already been discovered, right? It's already been. So what it does is it kills that spirit that I think is important in human beings, which is the desire. This is why I don't believe in the dark ages, right? They tell us, 1,000 years and nothing happened. Yeah, right.
No
Humans
way.
always want to build things. They want to do things. They want to go places. Look at what's happened in your lifetime. Look at how, insanity of what's happened in the last 40 years.
In the past 2 years, since 2020. I mean, wow.
Yeah, it's just AI and things like that. It didn't exist days ago. They're now.
Yeah, but I mean brave in the sense of it's humiliating to come out as a flat Earth. I mean, just from the globe side, I feel like maybe because you guys have been in this so long, but for me, I was very nervous about being associated with it, but seeing what you guys have already gone through and what other people, realizing how diverse flat Earth is, it helped me put my face on this dang show and start to talk about what I think is going on here. And that's my point. It's like, I'm not saying I'm so brave. In fact, it hasn't even sunk in that I've been doing these shows for the past couple of months. Because again, we're not doing this for fame or attention, but you guys just had some sort of calling or push or urge to just speak out. And that is what I think is really interesting. And I see more and more people doing that.
There's been people who've lost their job because they were flat earthers. That's a different level than I actually went through.
Friends.
So, but who needed those wives or husbands or friends anyway?
Yeah, and well, for me, there was part of it was an innocence, which is when you get into flat Earth, like a lot of us, the path is, there are a lot of similar stretches in the path, which is you don't know what the backlash is going to be.
No, you don't. You don't even consider it.
No idea, which is why. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to do my.
Well,
I have to do a public service announcement, and this is a good time as any. Guys, I know we're going into Thanksgiving, and I have to warn all the new flat earthers out there: do not go to Thanksgiving and sit down at the table and have a couple glasses of wine, and then say, "Oh, hey, Fred, what are you into now?" Oh, you know what I'm into now? I'm into flat Earth. And you're going to think people are going to lean in. It's like, really? That sounds interesting. Tell me more. No, it's going to be crickets across the table. And then they're going to be like, so what, is he serious? And then the people are like, I think he needs help. And it's just going to spiral from there. You'll be sent several Wikipedia articles. Don't do it. Guaranteed. I know you want, again, the first rule of Fight Club. Don't talk about flat Earth at the...
Mark, that's so hard, though. Are you kidding me? I want nothing more than everyone's about to take their first bite.
No, okay. No,
Don't call each other names. That I think is the biggest problem. Once you called your family member a moron and they've called you a retard, you're both going to go back in and it's done. Because the admission that you're wrong comes with the admission that you're actually retarded. Right? So who's going to do that? So just don't call each other names. You can argue. As soon as you call somebody's name, people, I've just seen it. They cement their position and it's just hate each other.
Don't call names. Yeah, it's definitely coming up though, you guys. As much as you could say that, Mark, you know how many families are going to be talking about all sorts of crazy stuff this year.
If you're going to do it, at least remember this. One of the biggest flaws of the flat Earth thinking is when we get to the certain part of our journey, we forget. It's like we block it out, the hurdles that we went through to get there. And then all of a sudden it clicks on in our head. It's like, oh, I got it. It was so simple. And it's so simple, I am pretty sure I can convince this friend, family, coworker in 15 minutes. All I have to do is sit down with them. I can just lay this out, and they're going to be like, oh, hey, I've got the same light bulb as you. It's like, no, absolutely not.
No.
They will figure it out on their own time. You will never flip them.
If at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Has anybody ever...
No, that is the best advice. Everyone take Mark's advice. Dang
just
it.
But you're not there to convince them. You're not there to persuade them. Just put the idea in their head and let them go home and lose sleep and look up articles
or do absolutely nothing and then just secretly hate you and send you a bunch of Wikipedia articles.
There's that
what
too.
usually happens.
Yeah.
You're never going to convince anybody.
Yeah, Jaron, how did your family react when you started getting into this and then the behind the curve?
My mom was great. My sister was great. I mean, my sister still takes the position of the chances that a few guys on the internet or on YouTube are right and all the teachers and professors and all the schools are wrong. She thinks that's a very slim chance, but
that's what my brother thinks too. So.
Yeah, wow. She came out of the school. She has a master's degree. So I mean, she went in school with one person and came out telling me that black people can't be racist and that just all kinds of weird stuff that they teach them there. So, but I mean, just to remind people that you cannot convince anybody of anything, especially in a sit down. Think of when you became a flat earther. Somebody didn't tell you, and then you go, "Oh, that's true. Now I believe it." So
yeah, it was you alone in your head.
Right. It's kind of like DJ Chris was talking about. It didn't matter what people were telling him. He needed to find it on his own. So be that seed that you plant the seed, but don't derail somebody. Because you know what happens when you say somebody's stupid or they're a moron? Well, then they go find Professor Dave videos, right? They find videos that are they just find the evidence that can go against you. They're not actually thinking about it, looking into it. So that happens when you call them names. If instead you just say, hey, I've been looking into flat earth. You ever thought about that? And if they say, no, it's stupid, just go, okay, well, it's just something I've been looking into. But when you do that, then the next time they hear it, they think back. Well, that was my cousin was saying he was looking into that. I did that with my friends because when I first tried to bring it to their attention, they just dismissed it completely. And so I said, I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm not going to talk about it at all. And then when that Tesla in space happened, the sports car in space, then they called me. Said, this is not supposed to be real, right? So then from there, you look into you as an authority, whereas before, they're like, who's this crackpot trying to tell me how the world works?
I thought that Tesla in space was really going to wake a lot of people up. Boy, I was ignorant then. But I really thought that was so transparently obvious that people would wake up. But no.
And now we have SpaceX rockets that are landing vertically, and people are absolutely gobbling it up.
Right.
I think it's the best thing ever. It's like, what are you doing?
They don't remember.
Yeah, Mark, give the audience your best Mugatu. I feel like I'm taking crazy.
How are you not seeing this? It doesn't work. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
No, seriously, it's bad. The fact that SpaceX is getting away with again the Artemis program. You know, the fact that they put a probe, a satellite went around the moon at 50 miles off the moon, and the resolution was absolutely for crap. There was no stars. And I tell people, and this is how I know, well, you're working with short-circuited NPC idiots, right. Which is you're talking to them and you go, so you told us there were no stars on the moon because of exposure settings, but now we've got better cameras than gods have, and there's no stars in space. Ever. No, it doesn't matter. It's all digital. Doesn't matter what they flip. We have predator vision now. We can flip the resolution to anything we want and see stars. We don't see any stars in space. Explain that, asshat. And they look at me and they glitch out. Like Austin will say every once in a while. They just they flip and it's like, well, what about this? And it's like, really? You're not going to address it? Not going to address it? Hey,
it's the same thing as during this past election when I tried to tell some people that elections really aren't, your vote's not really counting, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And I tried showing them when this election was over, the numbers of people who voted, the total who voted this year, when of course it was Kamala versus Trump. Right. And then you look at the number of people who voted in the last presidential election when Biden supposedly won, and how high that number base was, and how all the elections previous to that, it never got that high. And I said to a friend of mine, if you think your vote counts, where were all those people who voted Biden in? Why didn't they come back and vote Kamala in, or at least vote Trump out? Where did they go? They disappeared? Those people disappeared is what you're trying to tell me. And they just look at me like, well, a lot of people came out to vote during COVID because they were bored. That was an excuse I actually heard.
They justify it. Hey, we are winding down the show. So what I'll do is, Patricia, if you have a quick question, DJ, if you have a quick question, and then do any closing words of wisdom from the sage that is Jaren. Patricia.
Well, we have determined that Jaren is not a Glober, although people have said he is. And he is going to go there and see what he has to see and come back and then make a decision about the direction in which he's going to take his channel, if it's going to be looking into different sorts of maps, if it's going to be just, continuing on as is as a flat earther. It remains to be seen, and that is a very exciting thing. And I am glad that you and Whitsett, of all people, are going. In some way, I think I wish no one would go and we would have ignored the whole thing, but maybe that's chicken. And I think it's good that it's happening with you two, of all the people that we've got.
Thank you.
DJ.
2 quick questions. Number 1, do you have any new flat Earth proofs that are blowing your mind that you can share with us? This is what they are.
I still think that the one with the southern sun, people in Australia right now or New Zealand can be checking for the next month. If you were to time the amount of time after the sun sets, so you watch the sun sets and then it's gone, time that amount of time that you have residual light left. So you can kind of keep watching and say, okay, it's about 45 minutes or whatever. What should be happening is right now, the South should be increasing their time after the sunset because we in the North are decreasing our time after sunset. But the truth is that everybody on Earth goes through the same thing because we're all experiencing the slowdown and speed up of the sun. So right now, the sun is getting towards its outer track, which means it's going faster and faster and faster every day, which means that everybody on Earth is experiencing less time after sunset. Now, when December 21st comes along, then everybody on Earth will go through the same thing again as the sun reduces its circle, that it's going to get slower. So then everybody on Earth gets more and more time after sunset. So that's a huge debunk of the globe. The globe calls for it to be complete opposite, which means right now New Zealand should be having longer time after sunset. But you go check the time. Well, you can't look at the times. Don't go to twilight times because twilight times are mathematical. They say astronomical twilight is 6 degrees and then they're 12 degrees. Don't do that. That's mathematical. Actually go out and observe it yourself and see if you can find which way the trend is going. And you'll be surprised that it's experienced by everyone on Earth. We all get to experience something together, which is the speeding up and the slowing down of the sun.
All right, and my last question is, how close do you think we are to critical mass? We asked Dave that question. We've been kind of brainstorming. Do you think it's coming around the corner? If you had to give a percentage from a scale of 0 to 100, are we 80% close?
I think that any kind of celebrity is always going to be huge. If you can get that, that's where I think it could be overnight, to be honest with you. I mean, I remember when B.O.B. came out with it, because he had so many followers, it was just huge. The next day was like different than the day before, just because he had said some things on Twitter. Mm-hmm. So now the problem is
just like Elon talking about the crypto Doge, boom, that thing went up. And you always hope if you have a different sort of crypto that somebody like him, even if I dislike him, would talk about a crypto that I'm into, because it would be an overnight thing. And it would be the same in Flat Earth if we had somebody positively discussing it. But it seems unlikely. But
now with the control that they have over everybody who's in Hollywood and everybody who's in music and everything, that's why they have that control, is so that these things don't get out. So now you would be, removed from Hollywood if you came out and said it. So they've really cemented it down that people have to go by look at Jimmy Kimmel. Have you ever seen anybody go from one person to another? I mean, the guy's crying. I mean, it's just so dirtbag, and it's because he's cucked to the system. Don't ever cuck.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then keep fighting the good fight. Again, thanks for being here. Mad respect. Really great to have you here.
Yes, thank you to our special guest, Jaren, who I heard a rumor he's going to be co-hosting with Jake the Asshole pretty soon.
No, it's MC Toon. We're going to do a two-man show. It's going to be like...
I'd watch it. What?
I have to add that I'm sure that parts of this video have been recorded. Screen grab has been going on this entire time.
I'm sure.
And some hit piece videos will be coming out in 3, 2, 1.
I've already gotten used to that, and it's over.
Yeah.
What's funny is that people actually think that, I don't know about Mark. I know, Patricia, I tried telling you before, like, don't watch people's videos about you. Do you still that way, or can you still have to watch them?
No.
Well, nobody makes videos about me anymore because my channel, I deleted it, and I'm not that, important. Maybe I wasn't before either, but, I have a much smaller channel.
You still are.
With Mark, I don't think Mark would ever watch videos about himself.
Nope. And especially, I'm not going to name them. If some of the big troll channels, I mean, if it's a troll channel and my name's in the headline somewhere, if I'm on the thumb, I'd be like, no, I'm not watching that.
Or if it's cool and funny, maybe.
No. If it was like
when
PewDiePie put me in the thumb, it's like, yeah, I'm going to watch that because I'm curious to see because he didn't interview me, or somebody else puts me in the thumb. That's fine. But I won't. I stay away from comments. No, God, man, I want to sleep at night. I don't want. I'm not gonna
DJ, have you had a hit piece video made about you yet, DJ?
Oh,
No, I haven't made it. I have a lot of catching up to do. The closest thing was Will Duffy mentioned me in one of his final experiment videos. I was like,
well,
oh God,
that's
this
close.
is becoming so real.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a hazing that we all go through.
Well, we won't talk to you probably before you go on the trip. So keep us updated. Let us know. I don't know how much you're going to be able to shoot from, to stream out of there, or if you're going to be allowed to send it.
Yeah. Supposedly they have a satellite service so we can live stream. That's the rumor.
Hey,
great.
Well, why don't you use the same technology they used on the moon when they did the Apollo missions? Because all those camera photos that they took completely came out perfect.
Yeah.
No, we lost.
If I had to take a guess, because this is the first time hearing it tonight, that whole being in the tent rule, for the quiet hours. Right. If I would not trust Will Duffy, it's like, oh no, we totally got that taken care of. Sorry, if it was anybody else but him saying that, I'd be like, yeah, maybe him saying that. So it's like, man, because that'll suck.
Don't let him. You stay out there all night long if you have to.
Yeah,
I'm praying for you guys, and you guys.
Thank you
for what it's worth.
And you at least have some well wishes. I mean, again, you may not agree with us going. You may not agree with the experiment. You may not agree with the observation. That's fine, but we're human beings, and so I think people forget that. I'm not a shill. I'm not being paid by anybody. Duffy's not giving me any money. I've never even talked to him privately, like, oh, let's, nothing like that. So it's upsetting to see, because if it was anybody else, there's no way I would ever wish something bad on anybody who was going. It wasn't going. It was me. I would just say, hey, can you make sure you get as much footage as you can, and good luck and have fun. Yeah. That's it. But we don't get
You're
that.
our eyes there. Yeah. You and Wixit, and I respect you for going.
And this is something.
And you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah, and this is something on a bucket list again that hardly anyone gets to do. I mean, this is 0.0000, a bunch of zeros. Nobody gets to go in Antarctica again because it's horrible and it's really expensive. Why would you pay the most money ever for a trip to just sit and suffer?
Yeah, no, it does not sound fun. Thank you for reminding me. But
sorry about that.
Especially seeing all the stuff come in that I've never worn in my life. Like a balaclava came today. I'm like, why do you need to wear this thing?
You can use it to rob a bank later.
There you go.
You have to have a thin, like a silk layer of glove. Then there's like a glove that goes over that. Then there's a mitten that goes over. It's like, holy shit. It's a little bit much for me.
Well, hey, extra long johns. I hope you see some penguins. That would be so worth it, in my opinion. It's my favorite animal.
All right.
No penguins there, I don't think. But anyway.
Peanut is telling me to wrap this up. So,
all right, Peanut.
We will be back next week. Same flat time, same flat channel. Say goodnight, Patricia.
Good night. Thanks, Jared.
Say goodnight, DJ.
Good night, Strange World. Stay curious, and thanks, Jaron.
And say goodnight, Jaron.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and for promoting or supporting us on this trip.
And Peanut
absolutely
smokes his 48th cigarette of the day. All right, we're going to run the drums. You know how it goes. You can stay if you want, or you can drop off. Either way, but you'll hear the music, which is Alex Lowry. So here we go.
All right. Bye, Peanut. Good night.
Good night.
Charles Manson, ranch dressing, goat heads with the number 9. It is so divine with the whole holy grail, shape of the snail, the Fibonacci sound of the conch. Third eye rainbow swastika in my pine cone like a dirt bike goes. Third eye rainbow swastika in my pine cone like a dirt bike goes. Third eye rainbow swastika in my pine cone like a dirt bike goes. This is for Nana later. I'm impatient. I need